I just interviewed two master raw vegans who have been so raw and vegan and thriving for many years. And if you had curiosities on why do raw vegans struggle? Why do they go back to meat? What are we missing? Is there a nutrient? Is it B12? Vitamin D? Seaweed-based nutrients? I asked them so many questions, everything I could think of. Why do we have sensitive teeth sometimes? Why are we bloated and farty? I got answers. And you're going to witness them. It's a long video. It's like 2.5 hours. They're masters. If you want to subscribe to them, please do. Josh X and the xfamunity. They do coaching and stuff if you want. Little sign up down there somewhere. Just look at the links and go share them. Your love. Share them your love tonight.
Just let me be a monkey.
Good day, brother Casey. It's a pleasure to have you with us.
Pleasure is
We're very
mine.
grateful for your presence. If any of you listening don't know this wonderful man, he is found under the Vegetable Police on YouTube, and any type of links or affiliates we will put in the comments and you'll be able to find him. And if you don't know who we are, I'm Josh and this is Michelle X. We have a YouTube channel called Josh X and a wonderful website, xfamunity.com. So firstly, brother, how are you today?
I'm doing well. I'm feeling good. About a month and a half now, raw vegan, mostly raw vegan, totally vegan. But yeah, it's my return back and it feels good. I've always wanted to come back here. I got stuck in the carnivore way for a bit, but I have returned to the light.
Very good to see. Very good to see. And I think one of the most important things that impress us about you is you take your own individual journey from information that you seek and apply it and kind of find out what it does to your system and your body. And me and Michelle have also done a very similar thing, a massive food evolution and understanding from very young until this point in life. And we help people reverse diseases, find balance within their body, their mind, their spirit, and also teach some wonderful synchronizations with life to make it seem magnificent. So, firstly, I know that there's going to be many questions from people out there regarding this type of lifestyle. Some people aren't thriving. Some people are. Is it right for me? Is it right for them? I also wrote down some points here that maybe if you're interested, we could touch, which were, the omega fats, touch distilled water, the studies that show fructose is bad, colon cleansing, gallbladder cleansing, maybe touch garlic, onion, and chili, because I know this is quite a touchy subject for some. And there is some light to be shed there. Digestive enzymes, building muscle, the protein myth, fortification, B12, water fasting, juice fasting, and possibly touch on, urine therapy, and then maybe go into the food system like grains, legumes, nuts, seeds, and fruits, vegetables, and which is best, and go from there. But please, you take it away.
Could we start with the reason why you went down this vegan kind of raw food journey, and then the switch happened? I know that you said you kind of went to Thailand to experience all of this fruit, and it kind of happened the opposite way. So could we touch initially on your journey from like veganism to the carnivore side, and why maybe you decided to take that journey?
Yeah, so I started out just looking. I was just sleepwalking my way through life for the first 26 years or so, and I ended up really sick, and I'm like, what's going on here? And I actually was bleeding in my gut, and went and got tested by doctors, and they're like, you have ulcerative colitis. And they were doing a colonoscopy, and I was like relieved. I was like, oh, thank God you guys know what it is. You can fix me. And they're like, yeah, you'll be on medication for the rest of your life, and eventually we'll probably remove your colon. And I was like, well, what do I eat to heal this? And I'm like, oh, diet has nothing to do with it. Don't worry, just eat whatever you want. There's a McDonald's downstairs. Just go visit that. I'm like, what are
Yeah.
you talking? And that was my first moment where I like woke up, because doctors were the authority to me at that point. They were the best. Like, you go see a doctor if you're sick. And I realized they don't know what they're talking about when it comes to, like, how can a digestive illness have nothing to do with food? It has everything to do with food. I mean, there's mental causes, I'm sure, but so that just led me on this path of like, what's the diet? And I just kept trying all these different things and getting myself in trouble. And it took me, I think, 6 years to find the raw vegan diet. It was David Klein's book, Self-Healing Colitis and Crohn's. And I remember searching one last time on the internet, because I was searching so much, and my mom was like, oh my God, you're still looking at diets? Like, I was like a madman searching, and I wasn't finding the answers. And then I remember just being exhausted. I'm like, one more time. All right, how to heal colitis. And I'm looking through, and then I see this link that I've never seen before. And it was from David Klein, and it was this fruit-based diet. And he heals 99.9% of everybody who's had this illness. I'm like, really? And so he had a book. I ordered it, and I'm just looking online, like, what's his diet before the book came? Because it was going to be a couple weeks, and it was a fruit-based diet, mostly fruit. So I was like, really? And so, like, at this point, I'm like binging on anything. I'm just starving all the time, and I'm eating fast food. I lived next to a cookie factory. I had this, like, I would buy a garbage bag full of cookies because they were like crumbled and cheap. It was like $5, and I'd be sitting there just watching and eating cookies till I'm so full. And I could not satiate myself. And then I remember like just overeating. Sometimes I would throw up from it because I'm just like, oh my God, what did I do? Like an entire pizza and just so much salt, and I'm so thirsty. And so I get my first cantaloupe. I had half a cantaloupe, and I was satisfied for the first time in my life, I think. And I was like, what's happening? I don't want to eat anymore. So it was just so strange. And so like I just started healing, and I got off all medication. I remember I just started to wean down because I was taking these pharmaceutical meds for like 6 years, a lot. And I was scared to come off them. And so I just started weaning down. And then one night I was like, I'm done with this. Like, I got his book. He was saying, your meds are keeping you from healing. They're toxic. I'm like, oh my God. So I just stopped it one night. I got a fever. I was just laying in bed watching TV, and I just got so cold all of a sudden. Within 10 seconds, I was unbelievably freezing, and I'm shivering, and I got a fever, and I was sweating, fell asleep, and felt great the next day. So I just continued on this fruit path, and it was just the struggle. Like, I was healing my gut, but I had all these food addictions still. And so like, I didn't want to be a raw vegan. I wanted to be raw vegan to heal and then go back to eating whatever I wanted. And so I just kept doing that. And I would eat fruit and then want to cheat and then suffer the consequences. And it was years of that. Just like, why can't I eat what I used to eat? I have all this comfort food from my youth that I remember eating. And I was like, I want to eat that still. And then it took a long time. It was 2012 when I was eating this raw sheep cheese, and I got another colitis flare up from it. And I was like, I finally connected dairy to being what's causing my colitis this whole time. And so once I gave that, I was like, okay, enough of this. I'm going all over the place. I'm wanting to eat all these foods. Let's go vegan. Let's just do this. And that's when my healing started. And I never felt like I fully healed. Like, I still had skin issues and some bloating here and there. And like, I was off meds. I felt pretty good, and I was always looking online. And that's what kind of led me to being curious about these carnivores, because I would see people eating that way. and they're not suffering with the things I'm still suffering with, and they have perfect skin. And I'm like, what's going on here? Like, I thought vegan, you cleanse out and you get healthy. So that's really what got me curious. And that's funny because I moved to Thailand for the fruit, and I ended up being a coffee drinking meat eater. I was like, how did I turn to that? And I'm just eating nothing but restaurant food. So it was really just my seeing other YouTubers being healthier than me got me curious to eating meat. And so I did try that for a long time, but it just wasn't aligning with me. Like, I go out and film wildlife photography, and I appreciate the beauty of these animals, and then I'm gonna go home and eat another animal. Like, it never felt right. And so, like, now I want to be vegan finally. It wasn't just to heal the body. It's, I love animals and I think it's healthy. And so, yeah, and I'm thriving pretty much, but still have some issues. And that's what I'd like to discover today, and why a lot of my audience still have tried the raw vegan diet and it wasn't working for them too. And so hopefully today we can find out some things, some tricks.
Yeah, I think there's a few key things to point during your wonderful speeches. The key to the beginning of any type of health is removing everything done by somebody else, and then beginning on the food journey of a whole food diet. I think even if there's people out there that choose to eat meat, we're not here to try to take anyone away from the diet. We're here to just present what we found on our journey to be the ultimate truth for ourselves. So when people are transitioning from a Western diet into this whole food lifestyle, there's one thing that most people miss, and it's that most Western food is fortified. So when you're removing yourself of that, you're missing the fortification, which has come from, let's say, breakfast cereals, your milk, your dairy, your eggs, your meat, etc. And you come to a point of purity when we're eating food that's grown by a commercial company with deficient soil. So then after a period of time when these run out, we begin to feel like we're not in balance anymore. And this is the beginning stages of where people start to fail.
When the chemicals that are injected or put into these foods are removed also from the diet, you have like a form of die-off also. So it would be that bacteria that for the, inside the body that is used to help break down the foods that you've been ingesting over all that time are now having nowhere to go or nothing to feed off of. So it's also a fact of the illness or the detox stage that you sometimes mention in some of your videos is a stage where you have to go through that to eliminate all of those things that have built up in your body over that amount of time, because most beings that will have 20, 30 years of eating a standard Western diet and then all of a sudden decide, actually, I might just be a raw vegan or try it. So all of this crash happens in the body, which is why we try to promote a transitional period of, right, we'll help you slowly introduce some of these foods whilst removing some of the main causes of the problem. So, for instance, we were speaking earlier about the dairy that was affecting you quite heavily. So you would initially try to remove that slowly and then substitute it with more of the nutrient dense foods, such as your green juices and some of your juices, so that you could get that amount of nutrients in, and then trying to do it on a slower rate, because also with the amount of food that you were eating, you were crashing into the body, such as the cookies and stuff like that. You will have so many different bacteria that have built up to try and help with
And what flushes it out of your system? Let's say the lymphatic system, there's a build-up, and then you have issues with the liver and the kidneys. And this is why there's so much importance to actually transitioning yourself slowly to experience the benefits of evolution with the food. Logically, if we sit down and we go off what's natural to us, do we have any instinct to catch, kill, chase, run, respond to any type of animal in our environment.
I want to film them. I want to pet them. I want to feed
Yeah,
them. I want to be like their
nurture and
caretaker.
love
I
them.
just like,
Mm.
oh, how can I help you? That's what I think. And I think that's what most humans think. And I guess there's some people who have been raised with a hunting father and
Yeah,
it becomes normal to them, but that's pretty rare. And yeah, it's
It's
not.
still removing the instinct,
yeah,
though.
it's a
There's
program.
no instinctual behavior towards picking up a rifle and hunting, or with the natural body, do we have an ability to actually hunt? I mean, could we catch a rabbit? Could we catch a bird without any tools?
I can't even
A
get
cow?
close enough to film one from 40 yards away. Like, no, probably not.
But
Yes.
the instincts are there, but also if you take the senses that we have, the smell, the sight, the touch, the hearing, none of it is responsive to killing an animal.
Sugar
It
not only is
isn't
addictive
natural.
because of how it's made and it creates candida and feeds it within the body, it's because it tastes good, because sweet things is naturally how we tend to, find our food. And we're taught that sugar, we say sugar is the same across board, whether you get it from white sugar, coconut sugar, or fruit. And if we are investigative enough, we can look at the studies, and you'll find that any study saying fructose is bad is based on high fructose corn syrup. And we have a lot of these carnivore doctors that are promoting, this type of lifestyle with the meat. And they tell you to go and look at these studies, but they don't realize there's a high processed corn syrup, which is actually toxic to the body. The body doesn't recognize it. Thus, it needs a new type of bacteria, fungus, to consume it within the body. And then this will turn eventually onto the body. And another thing, as we just passed it, was within the lymphatic system, as you're healing, certain viruses, fungus, and bacteria actually store themselves in lymph nodes or in the lymph area to then later on reproduce. This is why, like Epstein-Barr virus or hepatitis, AIDS, and these type of illnesses, they can resurface. Herpes goes away, lays dormant, and then resurfaces because it just hides away. So there is a method to healing really deep at a cellular level, but I think the first thing that we need to recognize is what's our original food source. So let's take a look at you on a day out. You went for a nice hike to take some pictures. It was hot, it's middle of summer. You got stuck on the edge of a mountain and you were there for 2, 3 days till you got rescued. You came to our house and we had a big table and we cut up some meat for you. Just as it is, the belly fat, the hairs, the blood, some organs. Then we laid out some nuts, some seeds, some legumes, some vegetables, watermelons, papayas, mangoes. What would you choose in your thirst and hunger?
It's always the fruits. When I'm fasting, it's like I'm really desiring those watermelons, the hydration, because that's what makes fruit so perfect in my mind. It's everything. It's all levels. It's hydration, it's nourishment, it's energy, it's fast eliminating. Like it's everything you crave. Like anybody, because I go through moments where I've had enough sweet, it feels like, and my body, we'll get into that. Like, why do we crave these savory foods sometimes? But it's always that when you've been without food, sweet is the thing you want. Definitely.
Hydrate.
Yeah.
When you want something whole, you want something to be hydrating, satiating. And if we go to the fruit quickly, the words kind of speaks to you with this for you it, for you it. And it bears the seed. Any type of obvious reproduction of life, it needs to contain a seed to then be reproduced. And imperfection, if the earth was in a homeostasis, we would be consuming this fruit in a warm environment with lovely moist soil, and we would poo into the soil, and these seeds would then be able to reproduce. Now, our body's preferred energy source is glucose. It uses glucose for every function within the body. So we want to get the closest thing to this form of energy for the least resistance within our body. So, we say everybody can live happily and healthily on a whole food, plant-based diet. Even if people choose to consume meat, you're going to live a long, happy life if you get your meat sourced perfectly from somewhere that has grass-fed beef, for example. But if you're trying to heal, it's a totally different story. You know, when you go for grains, nuts, and seeds and things like rice, for the body to convert this into a easily assimilated source of food, there's slight acidity within the body. So it has to bring mechanisms in to make this a fuel. As you go to fruits, as you go to vegetables, there's a similar thing. A lot of people on a raw food diet, they tend to eat vegetables raw, which I don't think or feel is the best thing to do.
But juicing them has a huge benefit because you're getting the nutrients from them, but without the huge amount of fiber that it contains. So it's not difficult for your body to process that. So it just goes into the small intestine, gets absorbed really quickly, which is what we need, the nutrient dense juice, but without that amount of fiber. And this is why a lot of raw vegans suffer with the gas and the bloating, because they're eating it because they think the fiber, is going to be great for me to push through, but the amount that you need to fill yourself up and the coarseness of it is having an effect on the bloating of your tummy. Feels like you've got cramping going on.
You'll
The gas.
have inflammation.
Yeah.
You'll have distended stomach feeling, but pushing out, and gas will develop.
So juicing those veggies, the green veggies, is a really good idea because you're not getting the fiber attached to them so much. And then once your gut is healed, you can reintroduce little bits at a time with no problem at all. But it takes a while for the inflammation to decrease and for you to see a difference with the bloating and the gas. And then also, I was just going to touch a little bit on the initial stage of digestion is the saliva that we produce. And if we're not chewing our food enough, and we're talking whilst we're eating and stuff like that, and not having that, intention on our food, we are having like a stage back again because we're not creating that saliva, the small pieces of food that need to go down the tubes into the stomach to be digested easily. We're just having like a few chews and then a swallow.
You're missing out on the digestive enzyme process.
So we really need that.
42 chews is what you should have for an average, mouthful of food.
But you see a lot of people that are eating the standard Western diets, like the McDonald's and stuff like that, who are biting a couple of chews and just swallowing because they're super hungry. They want to get that fix of high fat, high sugar, volume really quickly. And it's called fast food for a reason, because it's all fast, the process that's happening within them. So that chewing is really important, and also not overloading the body. So even when we speak about vegetables, excuse me, not having too much of a huge portion so that the body can't cope with the processing. With fruit, it's kind of different because it's easily assimilated. So the assimilation process is really quick. Whereas the vegetables, and then we go on to the legumes, and then the standard Western diet with the chemicals, it's very much an intense process that happens on the body, which is why everyone's like, okay, I'll have a little rest now, instead of feeling vibrant and full of energy when we have the juices or the fruit, which is a really quick source of energy, like, those simple sugars. And that's what the body craves for a high boost of energy, is when you want a really quick get up and go, it's like a juice or a bit of fruit, and that will give you that energy for that time. So those kind of things are really important when we're looking at inflammation.
Okay. Yeah, there's a couple questions I had in there that tie into this. And one is I used to get very tired after fruit meals. And now I don't feel that so much. There's the odd time if I eat way too much and dried fruit, I'll still get a bit fatigued. But usually now I finally feel like I've reached a place where I eat a fruit meal, I'm energized, I can just go. Whereas in the beginning, I just remember so many times having these banana smoothies and I drink it and I have a nap after. It knocks me right out. So I think that's what turns a lot of people off. It's the sugar metabolism and the blood sugar roller coasters. And do you have tips to regulate that?
Did you find this on a pure fruit, or were you still consuming any source of fats at the time?
I was probably consuming all kinds of things at dinner. Like I was always confused about what dinner is supposed to be because I've been eating fruit all day and it's sweet. It's funny now I can have my fruit dinner and I'm craving it. I want it. But I do still have savory things like the zucchini noodles. I'm trying to keep it fruitarian and not too much vegetables. So it's just like tomatoes, zucchini. It's kind of nice to have a savory thing, but now I feel like fruit is fine for dinner and it digests well. But in the past, I was always confused. Do I want a high fat raw dinner or a cooked starchy dinner? I want something different. What do you think dinner wise?
I think with the fat situation is when you're having glucose into the bloodstream, glucose needs insulin to deal with it. So fat in the bloodstream causes a resistance with this insulin. So then the body wants to produce more glucose from stored glucose or glycogen, and then insulin rises again, and this causes more resistance. I feel for, a wonderful evening meal for somebody who's trying to heal or continue to heal, or how would you say your outlook is for the dinner you want to consume?
Well, I'm looking for like what's the optimal for health and longevity, but also some people do like tasty things. Not everybody wants every meal to be the perfect health. Like some of us want to have fun still. And it's just always been the debate, like what's a savory dinner that's not sweet?
When you're, it's kind of different. We sort of, it's two categories really, because if you've got a chronic illness and you're trying to heal, it's really different. It would look really different to a food system that we would offer for someone that was in a healthy position. So not trying to heal, but just want to continue and maintain that would look very different from a healing protocol. Because fruit is the fastest assimilation through the body, we recommend that for healing as much as you can. And if it was to be savory, it would be more like the cucumber side of things, and maybe sort of, the avocados kind of separate. But with a full plant-based diet, which we offer as optimum, we would include some cooked foods and different types of foods where we would say, okay, legumes are fine if you're not trying to heal, because they still offer that benefit.
Because who wants to sit on a fruit-based diet really in the masses? It's very rare to find somebody who attunes themselves to strictly fruit. And we transitioned ourselves through many. So we moved our way to like a whole fruit diet and we spent years on it. And then we added in some small things and we sat there very nicely. And then we go through cycles of fasting and then we don't. And we just continue this through the year. So if I was saying you wish to be raw, I would say don't limit yourself, too much, because you can create such an idea in the mind that everything has to be perfect. You tend to suffer with the thoughts, should I, shouldn't I, can I, can't I, wish I did, wish I didn't. This is no good either. But for an evening meal, when you did your noodles the other day, I would suggest buying a spiralizer that does things a bit quicker because you get a sore wrist.
Yeah, that's a workout.
But you can spiralize anything. So your cucumbers, you can spiralize your courgettes. You could also spiralize squash or zucchini, squash or pumpkin type of thing, and make yourself a sauce. And in that sauce, you can put anything you like. So if you wanted to go for an Indian takeaway type flavor, you could put a few tomatoes in. You could put some coconut in there, a tiny bit of lemon juice, some cilantro or coriander, maybe 4 dates, a bit of mango, some salt, some black pepper, turmeric, ginger if you wish, blend it up, and then pour that over your noodles, and you've got yourself a very high, dense calorie dinner that's going to satiate you and also not be very acid forming within your system. So I think learning the craft of raw foodism is a thing that will help you thrive. But also, if you're looking for vegetables in your diet, just lightly steam them. You can lightly steam lightly steam some carrots, some broccoli, and you can mix this in with some mushrooms and put that to your curry. Or, I just say if you're healing, you just have to know that the food system is eventually going to lead you to fruit fasting. and you'll find yourself in a health healing way. Moving on from that, you're best off just predominantly staying 70% raw with fruit, and then incorporating some other dense foods, especially when you live, in cold climates like we do.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm curious because a lot of raw vegans end up with the big salad. That seems to be the main thing, and it's tons of vegetables. And how are they getting away with that? Like, because I don't know, it seems like digestively that's a challenge, and all these leafy greens. And I know some people are doing 2 big salads a day. Forget her name, Lisa's Raw Food Romance or something. She's like on like a fruit meal and then 2 giant salads, and it's mostly vegetables. How are they getting away with that? Are you not a fan?
We experienced that.
We did, but
Bowls probably.
yeah,
Just
I didn't feel I didn't feel tired from it, but I did feel quite full, as in like, but not bloated, but
just
like tummy
slightly
full.
distended, and a small amount of
Yeah.
inflammation that you can feel inside you. Especially feel this with kale. If you eat kale even on its own, and what we did is we ate the simplest forms of food, and we got ourselves very, very, very acutely sensitive, and then we introduced things one by one and felt them. And this is how we came to such a point where we could really understand what foods were really for us and what foods aren't. So I don't really recommend, greens. If you are going to have greens, you should just juice them. If you eat greens, then steam them slightly. It allows them to be digested a little bit better. But a lot of these small greens and vines that go in the garden work well for the soil, like legumes. They put nitrogen into the soil. So then they work well with fruit trees as you're growing crops, etc. But as a staple, that keeps people, satiated across the masses where fruit doesn't grow year round. The grains and things have been introduced for everyone to survive, really.
Yeah.
To introduce them at a smaller rate, because I see when people transition back into cooked food, they have like a huge portion size, and the body then can't process that. So it's about introducing a very small amount and then going from there and just
Building up the
people slowly
ability to digest
it, because you think the enzymes aren't there. Well, if you've been on a high fruit raw diet and then you go to like cooked legumes, for instance, your digestive enzymes won't be there.
We also say you have like an acidic crash, so you feel almost flu-like symptoms because your body's recognizing something as very different, almost toxic. So then it goes through the lymphatic system. You start to feel sore throat, headache, and unwell. And having a raw food system and being abstained from nuts, you have some nuts and you eat them obsessively or excessively, you feel it. If you have raw food and you go to potatoes, you feel it. If you have abstained from garlic and onion and chilies and you eat them, you'll feel it very much. Very, very much.
I felt it as soon as I eliminated meat about 1.5 months ago, I got a flu, and I feel like that was detox. My body was like, okay, he finally got rid of it. And I feel like he's not going back. Let's get rid of this stuff. And it was a very noticeable detox. Like my skin freaked out really bad for about a week and a half. And I just waded through it, and I felt like I overcame that. But I do want to talk about detox. Like I feel like that's maybe the most overused word in the raw vegan community. Like every little health symptom, oh, it's just detox, bro. Don't worry about it. And like I feel like if I eat too many pineapples, I get blisters on my lips. Like it's too powerful. I'm not detoxing something out of my lips. Oh, I just need more pineapple enzymes to pull this last bit out of my lips. Like no, that fruit was very acidic. It wasn't ripe and it's hurting me. And so like, how do we know what's detox and how, or if it's caused by certain fruits or like a reaction to unripe fruits? How do we navigate that?
The journey is so individual. So most people such as yourself, have to navigate their self and really feel what's going on inside their body to recognize these things. So detox is naturally going to happen when you remove yourself from any type of toxin. or you move towards a fast, or you have fruit lighter within your system, but it shouldn't be a continual thing. And a lot of people who are trying to heal themselves find themselves in a perpetual state of detox.
That's where I
You
answer.
know? Yeah, and like I was speaking about earlier, some things hide themselves in lymphatics, so they reoccur and try to survive through the body. And if they get a small amount of fuel, they'll just continue, and then they'll die and store themselves. So, a question that I had for you just before this was, how long have you only ever eaten fruit, for example, or whole foods without anything like protein powder, kombucha, anything other than the source itself, and what you created?
Not long enough, really, because like most of my journey was more of a raw till four type of thing and a cooked dinner, or some periods I would go like 2 weeks and then I'm like dying. I'm like, I need something, potatoes. Oh, thank God. And so like it's never been this long, like 1 month, nothing but oranges. I've done a bunch of like, I remember doing a 4-day grape fast after reading The Grape Cure, and I was gonna go 30 days, but my teeth were so sensitive after eating grapes. I had to stop. I was like, I'm gonna melt my teeth away, like something. We'll get into that. That was one of my questions later, because a lot of people have the sensitive teeth on raw food, but to answer your question, it's never been more than like 2 weeks at a time. I've done several things. I mean, I did the 90-day juice fast, but that was with some vegetables too.
But you didn't incorporate any, when you were doing that, did you have any protein powder?
Nothing. 90-day juice, nothing but
Just juice.
juice, no
How did you
supplements.
feel? How did you feel there then?
It was incredible for the first 54 days.
Mm.
Amazing. I was like more energy than ever. I was still working out. I felt like I was gaining strength, although I was losing size. It was great. And then day 54, I remember I got fatigued and like super depressed, and I just pushed through it because I had 90 days in my mind, but
Mhm.
I something went downhill, and I'm not sure what happened there, but
So did you, during that journey, ever get any blood work done?
no, I did not.
No. Have you recently at all?
No, it's been a long time since I've got any blood tests.
Yeah, because a lot of issues or perceived issues can start from two main things, or maybe we say three. And one is iodine deficiency, one is B12, and one is vitamin D. Now, lacking in vitamin D can cause the onsets of perceived depression. Vitamin D is actually a prohormone, so it creates hormones and it regulates so many functions within the body. So having a low vitamin D can have this onset of a multiple amount of things such as teeth issues because it stops the body's ability to absorb calcium, which is hard to then regenerate and make teeth feel better, and also degenerates them. So I was done here as well that you had a water fast, didn't you? And you broke it with raw eggs.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
was
Where did you get this information from?
because I was carnivore leading into that water fast,
Okay.
and leading up to it, I had eaten nothing but raw lamb meat for 2 weeks. And I was like, my skin finally cleared up, and I was like, that's the secret, raw lamb. But it was really hurting my gut. This raw meat, it was like, I don't know if it was the bacteria or parasites, but it was really painful. And I was like, okay, I just need to water fast, heal the gut, and then I'm going to go back to this raw meat thing. And so I had the idea I wanted to break it with a keto diet. I didn't want to introduce sugars back. And so I do this 21-day water fast, and I'm like,
Celery juice or
Coconut
yeah.
coconut water is the best way to get the electrolytes back into the
Mm.
body after the water fast. But yeah, how did that go down?
it
Yeah,
was
wasn't it?
it was
Yeah.
not only like you're 21 days with no food, and you're like, okay, it's time to eat raw egg. All right. And I like sip on it. I'm like, that is gross, man. That is not what I was hoping for. And like, apparently people have done it. I did do some research, like, oh yeah, I break my fast with raw eggs all the time, no problem.
Iron
So
stomach.
I got so tired and depressed after one egg. I was like, wow. And yeah, I ended up in the emergency room. This pain in my ileocecal valve area just started to build and build as I'm eating eggs. And then like I had this aged meat that was in my fridge from before the fast started. I'm sorry, vegans, for grossing you out. And I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna have some chicken hearts too. And they'd been there for 2 weeks. And I'm like, okay, that hurts. Ow. And the pain just started building and I started panicking. I was like, okay, what's going on? I did like a castor oil flush. I was like, okay. And then that's just sitting there. And I'm like, I'm going to die if I don't go to the emergency room. And so I just went downstairs and there was like, it was after midnight, I think, at that point. And there's a security guard there, a Thai guy. And I'm like, ambulance? He doesn't speak English. And I'm like, translating on my phone, ambulance. And they picked me up and it was an ordeal that almost ended me. The whole night was sharp stabbing pain that did not relent. And then I made it out. I signed this waiver. Like they wanted to take my appendix out. And I was like, no, I'm not having surgery in Thailand. That's not happening.
For many years, they said that that was a useless organ, didn't they?
Yeah. I was like, I don't believe that. I think I need it.
Do you know what it does? It basically stores the gut microbiome in them, and it helps it release it back in to cultivate the gut. So it kind of stores bacteria that you need for a healthy digestion.
I have heard that.
So when
that
it
is
drops,
true.
it just it gives you a little bit in there.
But when you were pure from your water fast,
What you eat after that
is
should be the food that you know is right for the body. Yeah.
But when you go for
if meat was so good for you, I don't think I would have ended up in an emergency room after breaking it.
Because you went from purist,
yeah,
and then you would move into a source of fuel to be the next purist. But as you're switching from ketosis back into using glucose, you have to just be careful about the amount you introduce, and you go slow and steady with it. But breaking your fast with something like a papaya would have been probably most beneficial for you, I would have said, And if you want to remain in ketosis, then I would say just juice some cucumbers and some celery and keep it very low in glucose or sugar content. But that must have been a terrible time for you. And that leads me to say the B12. So when people start feeling terrible, because B12 regulates the nervous system, it regulates digestion, and just so many things within our body. If this is low, symptoms will arise, such as first fatigue. You'll feel very tired. You may have felt tired during your fruit time because you had low levels of B12. And even though the meat does contain B12, very low levels can get absorbed in our body, but you may have just been floating with the amount you were getting from it. But all of the meat and dairy industry are fortified. So I think, is it 80 or 90%? 80? 90% of supplements are given to animals, livestock, what we eat.
the B12.
Yeah.
But that if we are low in B12, we're only getting a secondary form of B12 that the animals already created within them. So the supplementation from its raw form would be to go and get a supplement rather than having the supplement that the animal has had and ingested and having it through that way.
Same with food.
Exactly the same with food. But, getting tested, getting blood work done is a really important part of any healing journey. So we would 100% recommend that you or anyone who's listening would get some blood work done. And then at least you can see what areas need a little bit of attention, because if it's, say, for instance, vitamin D, in a lot of countries, the winter time is, awful for
from October to March in the UK,
UK.
you can't absorb any vitamin D.
So that's true. Even if you're out in the sun, it's just the wrong angle and you can't.
It's the wrong angle, yeah.
So the supplementation through the winter months of countries like the UK would be recommended if you are on a borderline level or quite low in that, because you will experience symptoms that are close to detox symptoms that you have experienced
Especially
your
like
journey. So
pain in the teeth,
yeah,
bleeding gums,
Hmm.
things, and depression, tiredness,
yeah,
and you're not sure why, but you can't put a finger on it. And this is where B12, for people who are carnivore, they really enjoy the B12 aspect of the meat. You know,
power that it brings with
all
that.
all B12 is actually synthesized in the soil. You have to have cobalt, and there's a bacteria which feed on cobalt that then synthesize B12, and it should be found in plants. And then this would be ingested perfectly. But we have a massive deficiency of cobalt in the commercial world. And when we look at cows, for example, because people who work with cows will say that they're not supplemented with B12. Most people don't go into these depths, but they're supplemented with cobalt. And their rumen, which is their stomachs, they actually produce B12 in there from this cobalt. So their food is synthesized with cobalt. But
Which is why also with the grass-fed animals, in their feces, as they kind of poo it out, they'll be walking the feces into the soil and therefore gaining that B12 back from what they've produced through the earth. So we need to look at like soil types, the nutrients that have been deficient in the soil. This is why our fruit that's grown is quite deficient, because it's grown on a commercial level from the supermarkets. It's been, you know, sprayed and everything. So we wash it more, we peel it. So we're not getting that old form of B12, number one, from the soil, and number two, because we're cleaning it so relentlessly and peeling it, we're not getting those forms of rich nutrient density, because we're doing all of those things that may not have happened, you know, 100 years ago, when they weren't deficient in all of these vitamins and minerals.
But you look back 100 years ago, let's say we were living somewhere more temperate, which is kind of in balance with the hot and cold, day and night. Fruit grows well there, but commercially we have been scattered, and we're living in places that aren't necessarily, perfectly balanced for living outside naked in harmony with the earth. So we are lacking elements just in that process. We see that the commercial world has given us these foods to keep us alive, which is wonderful. We have nothing against this commercial food.
And the clothing covers up the whole body, so we haven't got access to that vitamin D. You know, the skin is the biggest organ in the body, and that's how we absorb all of our vitamin D, through the skin exposure.
Doctors recommend, Karen. Doctors recommend you to take 400 IU of vitamin D supplementation through the winter periods. Now, your body absorbs 10% of this, so 90% is remedied useless, so 40 IU you would be getting. Now, 1 to 2 hours in the sunshine, full body, you get around 20,000 IU. Okay, so if you're trying to remedy a vitamin D deficiency or even chronic ailments or chronic illnesses, megadosing vitamin D has been proven to be very beneficial to actually stop autoimmune diseases without changing diet as well. So a good thing to look at would be your vitamin D and your vitamin B. Iodine is another one which regulates thyroid and hormone control, which could be causing some spots and things like this. So we always share with our family, the XFam, that we make a kombu. And we boil kombu, which is a seaweed, which is very high in iodine. We boil it and put it in ice cubes, and then we have an ice cube each a day. And we've seen people with thyroid diseases like goiters, you know, a goiter,
Yeah.
and start taking this kombu, and it just goes down.
So it's like kombu, like the seaweed, or Irish sea moss. It's got so many minerals in it. And also, like, if you're at or close to a beach and you submerge the body in the sea, the ocean, you get all of that beneficial minerals that come from the sea. But then also, again, we look at the side of how much pollution's happened over the years, and it has that swings and roundabout effect of, how much, purity are we getting from the air that we breathe and the oceans that we live near. So, these things are included in the food that we consume because of the mineral content. The seaweed
It's a
overseen
science. It
this and we
really
can't
is
do it.
because of the way that let's say the Matrix has created everything to be so perfect. You just believe it's so right going on a fruit-based diet because everything makes sense and logical. And then before you know it, you hit with something like a deficiency, you feel very unwell. Then it's continually keeping you on a quest and unstable within your beliefs or your truth.
Yeah, it makes you second guess the diet is good for you because you feel a crash and you feel all these symptoms that you're not well.
But it's perfectly designed.
It is, because you have to find the truth yourself. And this is why we gravitated towards your energy, Casey, because you always try things out and you walk your truths, and we really
And you're
admire
honest.
that.
You're honest in yourself, and which is great. And where I was just quickly going with the commercial world is, you see how over time there was scurvy,
Hmm.
vitamin C deficiency, then they had iodine deficiency, they iodized the salt, and vitamin B12, and it was just added perfectly into the standard Western diet. That's why it was like it was. So we have to just be very cautious in navigating our way out of the standard Western diet and realize that, we might want to be spiritual in our arrogance and live holistically in one certain way, but we have to then let go of the idea that this was a spiritual quest and do what's best. And that's actually using every tool you have. And in your research and your findings and in elevating yourself, your journey is specifically for you, but you'll find it in your garden. If you had your own garden and you were planting your own food and you had your own trees, the soil was very rich, the bacterial life was there, you'd be fine.
But if you go to the commercial places that offer us an abundance of food, it's not going to be grown with all the vitamins and minerals that we need. It's just not.
It's the matrix.
It's kind that they're offering that to us, and we can get it from at least one place. However, we need to make sure that our bodies are thriving on the diets that we choose to do. Therefore, the meat and dairy industry that are heavily funded will provide that to a certain degree, with the added chemical bonus of
Because the masses aren't seeking it. They aren't seeking it. They get sick, and there's a wonderful industry of pharmacology, which is to administer poison into people. And then the cycle continues for a great business, which leads us on to protein and things like this. How do you get it?
Yeah, it's
Do you need it?
interesting with the deficiencies, because when you say like, yeah, we believe in this fruit-based diet, it's perfect, it makes sense on all levels, and then we can run into deficiencies. And I think that's what really fueled my experimentation, was just doubt crept in at some point.
Yeah.
It's funny because like when I was doing the raw vegan thing in the beginning, my mom was also doing it. Like I told her about it. I was like, we're frugivores. Like, look at this fruit. And she's like, I love fruit. Really? Like, and so she was making smoothies. She lost so much weight. She was getting great. And then at some point, I just found the paleo diet. And I was like, oh, you know what? I think we were actually cavemen. We were supposed to eat meat. And some people are just eating a lot of meat. And she's like, really? I love meat. And that
Yeah.
sent her on a downward spiral back to that. And she was so healthy on the raw vegan thing, but that doubt creeps in. And that's what really just made me want to change paths and like, okay, this isn't right. But if it's a simple fix of a supplement, like, so like you're saying B12 should in theory be in like on the
Only.
fruits.
It is only found in the synthesis of soil. A bacteria feeds on cobalt in the soil, and that's how it's produced in any way, otherwise a laboratory.
Okay,
But they
so
still feed the bacteria cobalt to create the B12
yeah.
synthetically.
So is there a supplement you recommend? Does it matter, like methylcobalamin sublingual?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people who are looking for like a truth with it, they think that the cyanide version is dangerous. Cyanocobalamin, which I think there's a recommended daily allowance of cyanide in your diet anyway, and it's like 100 times less than that within inside this shot. So you could take a supplement and look for the cleanest supplement with no fillers in like methyl, or to be honest, any hydroxy is supposed to be the best, the most efficient and easiest, but I wouldn't really choose one over the other. We have seen people with deficiencies so deep that they lost the feeling in their legs and their arms, and their spine started tingling and things like this. They were losing motor functions, in bed with anemia, fatigue, wasting, and didn't know what it was. And like 3 or 4 days later, after having some B12 injections, the pain, the feelings back in their hands, their arms, their feet, their legs, and then the energy levels are gone, back to normal after 3 to 5 weeks. And because the red blood cells are so depleted, their corpuscular volume is bigger, and then you have like a lower count, so you're always searching for more oxygen. You just feel fatigued and tired. It's something remedied as simple as this, and that's the trick with the meat, because that's synthesized and it does have it in it because of what the practices are. You eat meat, you feel better, and then you start to feel like a little bit down again because you're having the acidity and, let's say, the not so easily assimilated fuel within your body, death, and it makes you feel worse again. So you're stuck in this limbo.
So the initial feeling, if you have B12 deficiency, when you eat the meat, you'll feel great,
and you may crave it.
You crave
because your body remembers the last source it had, and then you smell chicken, or you smell, and you're like, wow, this is something I need to eat.
But then, like Josh was saying, after that deficiency is balanced
you
again,
won't fancy it again.
The meat is only there for that, serving that purpose. So then, therefore, the other diseases that you may get from the chemical imbalances of that will then continue to make you feel a lot worse.
Okay. And I know a lot of people that supplement B12 and they say it gives them acne. Do you know why that would be?
They may be supplementing something which is mildly toxic, and they may be on a very clean diet. So they're adding this in, the body's just expelling it very quickly, and it's coming up as a immune response, you could say. But clean B12 shouldn't be.
Because B12 has like a sugar added.
Yeah, like glycerin and things like this. So, we're trying to create something now ourselves as the cleanest type of multi supplement you can have, perfectly balanced for somebody like ourselves or like you who's trying to thrive on this diet. But essentially, if you had your own garden, that's why it's kind of our journey to make people aware that, if you find yourself on this diet, the ultimate real living space would be a garden where you can grow your own fruits and vegetables, at least seasonally. You don't have to be somewhere in the tropics, but like someone like Spain, south of Spain, or try to grow as much as you can. You're going to live a very extended period of life without any ailments.
If you can't, just remember that the supplementation is probably needed because of the way that the commercial
it's definitely needed, and that's the thing. That's the sad thing, because a lot of us create a mindset that we don't want anything like that.
D3, does it matter the source? Like they say it's from lamb's wool or something. Like, is there a better vegan D2?
Lichen is the best. Yeah. Lichen, Lichen.
Okay.
It's a source found in woodland on trees. It's kind of in between like a fungus, and it's very high, and you'll know it when you go on your walks. If you just type it in, you'll recognize it. But yeah, a lot of good supplements like vegan with lichen. Okay. So it's friendly for those who don't want to cause any conflict with animals, fur, or anything like that. Yeah.
And last thing about the B12, for a blood test, I've heard you want to test methylmalonic acid instead of B12 levels. Is that true?
On an initial testing, you can just ask for B12. It might be a bit simpler because in the people who we send to get tested, that's the initial test. If you still feel like there's some issues, then you can go for further testing. But a lot of the time, most of the time, that's low. You know that you can remedy yourself. You may be able to go to a local like health spa place that give you shots. You may just want to continue to supplement. But if you are very low, I would say that supplement yourself with the shots for probably twice a week for 2 weeks, and then once every 2 weeks, and then get yourself a daily supplement, and you'll find yourself balanced there.
And iodine is an interesting one. Is there a reason, like you make the kombu? I've been craving nori like crazy. I've just been eating whack loads of it with dried figs. Fig sushi exists. It's actually pretty good.
Your taste buds. Poor things.
Dried figs are quite high in calcium as well. So
Yeah, dried figs are actually high in cobalt as well. They're one of the highest in cobalt, which your
Okay.
body might be trying to synthesize.
be craving it because of a deficiency somewhere as well. So
Yeah,
it'd be really good to get tested to see.
I've been eating quite a bit of dried fruit lately. Not like we have fresh fruit, so I try to eat as much, usually a couple meals of fresh fruit or juices, but then my dinner, I feel like I want something more dense and just to
Sure.
have the abundance of it here. Like I can just go buy many packs of dried figs. They're always ripe. Do you think dried fruit could be a problem? I do want to talk about iodine, but just
It definitely causes like a bit of acid reflux. So it's not sitting with you as perfectly as it would be if it was hydrated.
It's slightly more imbalanced. The sugars are slightly more imbalanced when they're dried. So we want it in its whole pure form as much as possible when healing. Not to say that the future.
Yeah, just be aware of it.
Yeah.
Have you started getting any slight reflux? A little bit acid burn?
no, I used to get that usually with starch. If I eat like rice and beans or something, I notice that, but never with fruit.
Yeah, you'll probably be aware there'll be a certain limit you're all right with, but maybe you could just soak some for a couple of hours before and just get them a
Okay.
bit more hydrated. But yeah, I wouldn't say it's going to be a massive issue, but it's not. You can feel it's not optimum.
Yeah. And that is, did have another question. We might as well just tick it off. Can sugar be a problem? Like even, I know in diabetes, like it's the fat that causes the insulin resistance. So too much fat is the issue. But there was like that Walter Kempner's rice diet. It was just rice, fruit, and white sugar, and that would heal diabetes. And I'm just wondering if is is sugar a bad thing? Like on a fruit, what if you want to add some coconut sugar to your smoothie or something? Like is sugar no longer a problem, or should we just
At the beginning, it's like everything's okay if you do it yourself. So use dates.
Because coconut sugar has been through a process, an extraction process.
The machines are cleaned daily.
It's always got
bleach.
residue of something else on. So having the coconut in its whole form added to whatever you feel like you want at the time is always the best option. When we buy something that's extracted is not the whole holistic form. So we don't have that personally, do we? We stopped having that.
You'll know as well, but you think your body doesn't recognize anything out of its natural space. When it does, it has to call in the troops. And those troops might be a different form of fungus, a different form of bacteria, a protozoa, something that needs to break these things down in your body. And then you don't have it again. And then it has a die off. And then you don't have it again. And you do. And same with potatoes. You can eat potatoes happily. If you have them every day, small bit of your meal, or you have them a couple times a week, it's fine. But if you have it once a week,
and then you start
feeling symptoms and you're not sure why. You're having like candida in the mouth, sores, and things are coming up because they're constantly dying and reigniting and dying and reigniting.
Yeah, that's tough to navigate that. It's like it's detox, but it's also die off, and you're causing it by this one cheat meal a week.
You just sit where you want to sit. See, if you feel nice having some homemade potatoes, some sweet potatoes, some sprouts, some broccoli, things like this, but staying predominantly on a fruit-based diet, and you're not healing from a chronic illness or a disease, and just find yourself there, sit with it, and stay balanced. And you'll find that you won't have any issues. It just takes a couple of weeks to be able to build up to this, slow and steady, and you will find a pure balance within your body.
Okay. All right. So we'll talk about iodine and then move on to some stuff. So do you recommend, I know who is it? Don Bennett, the raw vegan, he recommends iodine supplementation. And I always wonder, like, why not just eat seaweed? Is it because, like, maybe the toxicity of our oceans, it's better to supplement iodine? Or
I think eating seaweed is very hard to be digested, so you're not getting the full benefits out of it. So we like to boil us and then steep the nutrients out. And I mean, it is magnificent. Like the real observation of it is how much the iodine really takes a big difference on somebody with iodine deficiency, because it's very high in iodine. And really, one ice cube a day stops people with their goiters, goes right back in. So you know it's working when you observe this. As for other minerals, you're going to find an array of vitamins and minerals within your fruit-based diet. Even the omegas that people are very, cautious about is found in your fruits and vegetables. I mean, mango and avocado are one of the highest. So this is definitely an efficient diet, but those three you have to kind of navigate around, which is the B12 and iodine and D3.
Interesting. Is there a ratio that you make your kombu to water in your broth?
Yeah, we've got a video, haven't we, on our YouTube channel, on our website?
I think it's on the website.
We can share it with you.
Yeah.
But we
Okay.
just get a box of kombu, which is probably 250 grams, maybe 1 liter of water. We boil it down to about 400 mil, very slowly over about 2 hours, let it sit to cool down. Put it in a jug with a sieve and then pour it into ice cubes. And we usually would say, is it 30, maybe 30,
Yeah.
60 ice cubes out of that, which will last you 2 months or a month for you and your partner.
We put it in we call it like a bain marie, so it's not heated directly. It's in a pan above, like a dish above a pan, so that it's not direct heat almost. It's
If you do that though, steep it all day. If you don't, if you just want to boil it, just a good hour or two, very low heat, and just let it simmer down.
But we'll share that with you as well, because it's really beneficial for
So beneficial.
the minerals.
Yeah, it's probably why I'm craving the nori, but it definitely gives me some gas chewing that nori.
That's the obvious sign of improper digestion.
Yeah. And so, like, do you believe in food combining? Because your little sauce you mentioned earlier had dates and coconut, and we're mixing sugar
Chronic
and fat.
illnesses, don't
do that.
If you're trying to live a happy life, instead of having to cheat, you can create. I mean, I make curries from raw fruits, and I warm them in like a bain-marie till they're hot enough to be like cooked food, and then it tastes better than you would ever get from a restaurant.
So good.
And that's all you need to realize is if you're doing something yourself in a whole food way, you're going to be absolutely fine. You're going to live happy, prosperous, and healthy. If you're healing, then there's just a protocol to remove certain things, allow yourself this stillness, and then reintroduce things over time. And you can incorporate with this type of healing mechanism. So you go to fruit, you have fasting intermittently, you have a water fast, and then you can use some like blood purification. Have you ever heard of like electrification of the blood?
No, like I've heard some supplements that target cleansing the blood, but
Yeah, because the blood's usually got parasites, fungus, and bacteria in it, living in there a lot of the time. Having a small electric current run through your body will remedy these viruses, fungus, and bacteria. And when you do this, you have certain hiding places in your lymph nodes. Then you can use like electromagnetic therapy to attack these ones within your lymph nodes. But it's been proven to reverse or cure AIDS and hepatitis and Epstein-Barr viruses and things like this. And you can make them yourself, and they are cheap to buy. And you can give yourself
what's it called?
It's like blood electrification. I can send you links.
Okay.
There was a man called Robert Beck, I think, and he has manuals online, PDFs that you can make these devices yourself. And also, if you drink silver water, do you ever drink like silver colloids or colloidal silver?
I have colloidal silver, but I never take it internally. It was only when I would get like blisters from the pineapple. Is that a virus or like what is that? Why do I get a blister?
No, it's a reaction from going too close to the core or having it unripe.
Okay.
So you just have to, I mean, how do you find a ripe pineapple in Canada? It's difficult, and it's the same in the UK. So you just got to be careful. Okay. Just maybe juice it and not go too close to the core.
I juice the core too.
Oh,
dear. Oh, that's your issue.
That's where I
So
went wrong.
with colloidal silver, all you need to do is get yourself a 9-volt battery and some pure silver wire, wrap it around both, and put that in a cup of water for 3 minutes, and you've got yourself a really ionized silver water, which is great, for example, for helping you through a period of sickness. Say, AIDS. Let's say people don't die of AIDS; they die of something which an additional thing that causes them to die because their immune system's low. But if they take colloidal silver during that process, it won't happen. And then you can use this blood purification process and electromagnetic therapy to go into your lymph nodes and, heal yourself that way, which I feel is the end goal for somebody who's done a transition into a fruit-based, water fasting, juice fasting lifestyle, because even that itself can clean your body from, I would say, 99.9% of ailments anyway.
But once the body is clean, then it's so, so important to remineralize the body after that clean period.
Yeah.
So the most important part of fasting is post-fasting, really, because you want to rebuild the body because it's completely depleted and clean. And now you want to add those vitamins and minerals back in the best way you can, the most efficient way, and a very slow process. Just eating, or what you experienced when you had to go to the emergency room is like,
For you.
when you experience that, you know that it has to be done in a really proper way. So people that are beginning a fast or interested in fasting, we do have these pre and post protocols on our website, but it's very important to empower yourself with the knowledge going into the fast that you need to work downwards and then back up again in a slow, controlled manner, and empower yourself with that gnosis so that you don't fall poorly to the aspects of going too quickly into something that you don't understand your truth.
Quite a few people in our community have done like 40-day water fasts, and they just find so much benefit from it. But some people don't, because first of all, blood tests, you might just deplete yourself so much of what's there. Secondly, when you're doing an extended water fast, we would recommend highly that you take like a multivitamin supplement. Make sure you're getting your vitamin D and your B, and add in a small bit of Himalayan salt into your water just to keep that mineral balance in your body. Otherwise, you can deplete yourself and have an electrolyte imbalance. But
I think when the people do it on their own without no testing or checking, because some people go away and do these little camps where they're tested, their blood pressure's tested, they get their blood work done initially before, and people are checking on them. If you're doing it at home on your own and it's an extended fast and you have no idea if you're depleted of vitamins and minerals in the first place, and then you go into this heavy, long water fast and you're depleting yourself even further, you may not even realize, but your body will go into like a shock form, and you will feel incredibly poorly and need to have medical intervention because of that.
Yeah. So even kombu really in your water, you're still having the true autophagy take place. You're going to be in that ketosis state for such a long period of time. So having things like this, there's a guy who done 382 days on a water fast, very fat, very big guy. One of the great things that comes out of it is you don't actually have the stretch in skin when you water fast as you would if you did a juice fast. There's so many different things that take place. But yeah, just go very careful if you're doing another fast. Just try to make sure your blood is good and you do supplement and keep your minerals high and your vitamins high.
When we say supplementation, Casey, I know you had protein powder.
We don't mean
things
that.
like that before.
I tried that. That was not working at all.
Yeah.
Nothing in the world of like supplements in that sense. They don't pay dividends to take. It just causes distendedness, bloating, gas, and discomfort.
We would always look for the clean source of
pure
vitamins, minerals type.
Yeah, it makes sense. because like breaking the fast, I mean, there's that story of the guy who died breaking the fast with potatoes, I think it was. He just died. Like, I'm very lucky to have lived
I think he
through.
choked. I think he choked because he was so excited to eat.
Oh, maybe. Yeah, that would have been fun, a potato. But that story did have a happy ending, though, just for the audience. When I got out of the emergency room and I'm in pain and I'm on a cab and I get home and I noticed that there's a juice bar right next to my condo, and I was like, that's what's gonna save me. And I went in there, got their electrolyte juice, whatever that was, pineapple, celery, and that just, once I drank that juice, the pain dissipated enough to where I could actually lay down and not be in extreme pain. And I fell asleep and I felt almost completely better the next day. And it was the juice that saved me.
Yeah.
Saved your life.
Yeah. So fasting, do you see dry fasting as even a higher truth than water fasting, or is that a dangerous one?
It can be done. It's not something that people should just try to achieve. I wouldn't recommend it for a long period of time at all because our body does need hydration and constantly we're expelling water, even if we can't see it, from our body, from our mouth. So I think it's more of an extreme thing, not necessarily a goal for healing. But
Okay.
a lot of people have a spiritual journey that leads them into spiritual concepts. And one of the concepts is fruitarianism, which
Mhm.
makes one feel like this is seeking the highest. But what's happening is there's not much function going on with the body. So it allows you to kind of contemplate and be more still to observe what's going on. But that which is physical is never going to be non-physical. And that which is non-physical is source. So anything physical, any type of journey externally or application to this body will never lead you to enlightenment. Enlightenment is led with removing of these concepts to recognize what is real and what is not, which is that you are aware, and all things that you are aware of arise within yourself. But that's a totally different subject. But
When we look at, if you see what Josh was saying with the physical aspect of how much of our body is water, for instance, how much of our brain is water, how the bodily functions all depend on that water.
how much water is in meat?
There was water in it when it had its blood, but it's
When
pretty
it's
much,
good.
it's been juiced.
But then you look at the aspect of how we can thrive healthily with, I know, Casey, you did a video on the distilled water and stuff like that, and the fruits are a natural form of
Still
amazing distilled
electromagnetic water.
and that's how we thrive off fruits because of that aspect. Like, you barely feel like you need to drink water when you're on just a fruit diet because of that aspect of pure water going into the body and getting absorbed really fast in the intestines, and the lack of inflammation helps you heal because there's no process going on, or very little processing going on within the digestive system. Therefore, all the energy can go to the places where you need it for healing. And that's why many people get a lot of benefits from healing on an easy assimilated diet like fruit, because that is enabling all of the energy to go towards that.
Which is why it's so good for diabetes, because there's a high dominance of fructose, which doesn't need the insulin. And the body, goes into the liver and converts into glucose, but it converts into lactate and also glycogen. And glucose can be, I mean, you can use like 90 grams in like 40 minutes of exercise. And you think 90 grams is quite a lot of, glucose to be used. Then you have stored glycogen in the muscles and in the liver, which then replenishes that. So the level of activity you do, is sugar bad. It's your source of fuel, and the body has mechanisms to store it and to convert it as it's needed. And the great thing about having like raw fruit dominance is this: the high water content is actually very filling, so you know when to stop. And if you do feel something like when you felt on day 56, maybe you should just listen to this instead of the idea, at the start to do 90 days or progression. We are And we do have this wonderful tool. And intuition is something that you do tune into your inner tutor as you take this journey.
Hmm. When you mentioned fructose, one of the comments I get so often is, "You're going to get fatty liver from all that fruit." And it's like some guy did a study. It's like, oh, when we inject a monkey with fructose, high fructose corn syrup directly in his brain, we noticed that fructose was causing him problems. Like fruit, in my opinion, fruit cleans the liver, right? Like how
Yeah,
could it
yeah.
ever cause fatty liver? There's no fat fruitarians. Like why are we stuck on
It's
that?
just the concept world, and we live in the age of hearsay and untruth with lots of deception. So a lot of these are hearsay and untruths, and no one's looking at the study, so it's just blown up on social media and on Google. But you go into the studies, it's always with high fructose corn syrup, and this is known to be one of the deadliest substances to cause the most disease on the planet. So it's just essentially that you shouldn't be eating anything that's not grown from the ground or you do yourself, and I feel like that's a foundation for health. Don't go out externally and try to, I mean, you can do, I'm not saying don't, but you go to a shop, for example. We wash all of our food, bicarbonate vinegar, we clean it whether it's organic or not. When you go to an organic farm or farmers in our area, they spray the fields with muck. So they collect from the water sewage systems, poo, and all these things which contain listeria, E. coli, all these different types of bacteria. They're found on your fruit. There's certain problems that you'll get from these viruses or bacteria which actually take and leach B12 out your body as a host. So it's things like improper washing of your food. You can be consuming fecal matter, getting issues because of the way these practices are done, which then lead you to ill health and questions about the food that you're consuming as well. So
Mm.
it's a multiple complex system that we are navigating around, and it leads you to one space of simple or simplicity, and that's your own garden. You eat your own food from it, and wash everything
Mhm.
if you have to buy it. You'll be good.
But if you can, then taking small steps towards your ultimate truth
Hmm.
is so beneficial, because you'll look back over the space of a year and you'll see what changes you've implemented and which ones you're able to maintain. Because ultimately, it's about bettering the self hour by hour and day by day. If we have teachings that need to happen, they
Hmm.
just keep cycling. You'll just keep getting ill until you know what's right for you. And this is the beauty of learning, is that actually our bodies are telling us what's good and what's not good. But are we in
But my
tune?
mind's telling me I like these chips
Cookies.
from the shop, the cookies.
Yeah,
Hmm.
So it's
this
what
is
life path do you want
But
to
remember,
take?
your journey is specifically, everyone's journey is leading them to elevation, no matter what level of consciousness they're at. And your journey is quite a higher journey. So it's really pointing you, because I know that you're finding spiritual evolution at the same time as this physical evolution and peace, and you're very a peaceful being. So life is just leading you here, and whatever's happened to you is absolutely purposeful and for you. So it's just
mhm.
waiting for, the next level.
Yeah, this is a fun conversation. I am learning quite a bit. I'm learning not to be so dogmatic and just believe, okay, I can just eat nothing but fruit. Like I've heard lots of these masters who have been raw vegan for many years, and most of them say, like, pay attention to your B12 and D3. Like these are real things. Like don't just live in your Garden of Eden and ignore everything if you're having issues. So I think I will get a blood test and
Yeah.
see, because I used to do that. I used to do it like every year or so and check my kidney function. Got so bad on the carnivore diet. It was, what was that? The EGFR reading, like it was of a 90-year-old man. Like it was terrible. And creatinine, like it shot right up. And I was like, oh my goodness.
That's the waste product of creatine, isn't it? And that'll bring me to something after you've finished. I'll let you finish what you were saying.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, so like we have learned that I think people sometimes feel better eating meat because either they're getting the B12 that they were lacking It could be even the iodine in the salmon or whatever that is. But I also feel like it could be hormones. Like there's hormones that seem to just, for some people, I just have this theory. I'm not sure if I'm right or not, but I was doing medical mediums approach a couple of years ago, and it was basically low fat, plant based, but I wasn't feeling great. And I would add in just a can of sardines a week, and I would get this boost. And I call it the fish boost. I was like, why do I feel this like immediate boost in energy? Like everything's good. And I just feel like it's the hormones. And when you come off that, because I was eating nothing but fruit and meat for the past, right before going vegan again, and I was feeling really good. And then I removed the meat, and almost immediately I started getting tired and kind of weak feeling, but it's picked up already. I just feel like some vegans, you have to wait to adapt and produce these hormones again. Like your adrenals, you're used to getting these hormones from meat, and so they get lazy, and we rely on that. And when you remove it, your body's like, uh-oh, we don't have those hormones. We don't even know how to make them. Do you think I'm right with that theory? Like,
I would say you are right. Yeah. And for a great example is, I had recently my testosterone level was checked maybe at the early part of last year, was it? Maybe April, May, June, something like this. And when they phoned me, they asked me if I was on any type of anabolic steroids. And I was no. And the range in England was between 13 and 29, which is just the scale of testosterone, 29 being the highest. Mine was actually 42. And I then looked into studies, and in the 90s, there were studies done with vegans, and they weren't really kept on, but it was known that vegans had a lot higher testosterone than any meat eater does. And that would be down to the downregulation of hormones, one for having them in externally, and then the body doesn't really produce them. And if it does have to reproduce them, then you'll get an elevated state when you come off of these foods. And another one being that the body's deteriorating so much, the hormone functions aren't actually working as well as they should be. But I would say you're very, very, very right there. It's the same if someone takes anabolic steroids. There's a point where a man would have a testosterone of a 5-year-old girl, and then it would eventually go back up.
yeah. So just to be patient through that process, if you're just wondering, why am I so tired? Like your body should kick back online at some point. And for those who don't know,
usually
on
after a few weeks.
a couple weeks, that's it.
Usually after a few weeks, but it depends on how long and how big the damage is done.
Yeah, I feel like after a couple of weeks, maybe a month on this fruit-based thing, like I was tired in the beginning, but now my energy's back and I'm going on long hikes and things are great. So I was just going to say, for those who don't know, on my channel, these two are both fruitarian and very fit and healthy looking. And like, I think you're on a journey right now to like build some muscle as a fruitarian to show. Like,
I was. When did we start off? We did a course on our website, like a transformational course, end of September, where we did basically a training system for anyone who's interested in training, all the way up from like working at home to like a bodybuilding regime. And I did it 3 months before we launched it. So I was training it was about 4 months actually. And in 4 months, I managed to put on 55 pounds. 55 pounds. But before I was lean and I was fasting. But I mean, my strength from doing nothing at all, because I had 7 years off training. I used to train a lot, and I had 7 years off. We went to land, we went with the trees and grew our own fruits and vegetables, and then went on this journey to help people reverse diseases and heal. I think I put on 5 inches on my arms in that amount of time as well.
Is there? I know that we teach this a lot, but for those guys that are new to seeing us, that we try to, as much as possible, guide beings to do mind, body, spirit. So it's, with the food, this is what we've covered extensively today. I know there's a lot to take in, but also there's an acidity to, if you're feeling stressed, anxious, depressed, all of that acidity will hold within the being as well. So trying to balance that state of what you know is truth for you, because Casey, maybe like even when you were eating the meat and the dairy products, it wasn't aligned to your inner tuition. Like you said, when you see an animal, you love to do photography with it, which is amazing what you capture. And when you're around them, you feel like you're aligned with them, and then you go and eat one, and initially, even before you've eaten that, your intention is to like be repelled from it. So you're putting an intention into that, that energy field of like, actually, this is not what I'm aligned with. So therefore, it creates an imbalance within. And everyone knows that we're electrical beings and that we get, the energy, we take on board the energy that we see, that we hear, that we eat.
You would be at conflict with your emotions for sure.
Constantly like this. So we're always guiding beings for that balance. So the mind, again, if it's constantly talking from ego states, we try and help beings move more towards the loving energy, the virtuous way, and then bring that body not over to the completely spiritual fairy type thing, but into that balanced state always. So
one thing you said that was funny, wasn't it? Remember what you said, that you was eating fruit for such a long period of time that you felt like comfortable in white robes. I thought that was very funny. That comes with the spiritual concept as well. A lot of us create the idea of spirituality and move into it. We're always externally looking for something, but the missing thing is the internal work, which is the conflict you're at within your own thoughts. How do you spot this, and essentially how do you become free from it, which is enlightenment? It's just enlightening meant, which is mind.
But that's why some beings you can see that are comfortably eating meat, because they have no concept that it's bad for them, and being dense for them. They have no conflict within their being. They're like, okay, I'm eating this way and I'm enjoying it and I'm happy, I've got no problems. Therefore, we leave those beings to do exactly that, because they're in a state of bliss with it almost. But when you come across issues with chronic illness or something that may have just come up, we always say, look at the holistic aspect of it, not just what am I eating and how can this benefit me, but how are my feelings with regards to this aspect?
Am I applying my truth and belief to experience, knowing, and wisdom? Because belief, as you got it on your top, if you look at the middle words, is lie. And if you believe if you believe something is not true, because truth is truth, and a knowing is very different than a believing. So when you have a belief, you have a will to apply it. If you don't apply that will, a form of thought will come in, which is called a demon, in mysticism and religion, and it will take you from the present moment. So you're living in this inner conflict. So you either learn how to take your attention off of this and continue with life, or you, one by one, free yourself from the ideas that you have, which are concepts inside your personality.
And this is one thing that I will say Josh and I worked heavily on when we were away in Spain initially, is that although we were on this huge food journey of like shifting, we also worked on that mind, body, spirit or soul aspect of, really igniting that unity within and stripping away those old programs that we might have had from childhood with the peers or the family. And that freed.
You have a lot of conflict, especially within relationships. And one of the great things is an expectation of your partner, for example. You don't want her to do something and you've told her and she does it again. Now that expectation is there, you're suffering, it creates aggression and anger within you. And if you just let go of the idea and just let someone else be as they wish, because it's only a form of control, you be yourself. And if you want to enjoy life, you be kind and nice to each other.
And this doesn't create an acidic environment within. It creates a very balanced environment and a happy.
And we don't want to change anybody because we know we can. And having a will or a desire to change someone causes you suffering. That's why the word issue is you.
Yeah, I was very lucky that my girlfriend at the time, my fiance now, she was so accepting of me when I first went carnivore. I was like, yeah, I'm on a beef cleanse right now. And she was like, a beef cleanse. And she was like, yeah, that would be what you do. And like, she just took it, and I feel for people who are in a relationship where there is a conflict there. And I don't know, some people just have no problem with eating meat. A lot of my audience, like, they're just like, we're the alpha predators and we're here to kill. Like, I don't believe it. I don't feel that, but maybe it's a journey for them. Eventually they'll realize, but
Yeah, I mean, the truth's always going to set you free. So whether or not you're eating a diet which is going to lead the body to an early death, eventually you'll have to be on continual journey of your evolution of consciousness, which will lead you to a space where you don't. Which is one of the things, if you look at the tribes, the Maasai tribe, they got an average life expectancy of 42 to 45 years of age. It's not a very long life expectancy. They're predominantly on a meat-based diet. And then you look at the Inuits, and that they were eating fish, which is a better form of food because it's less conscious and has less emotional and instability within inside the flesh. They're like 60 years of age. So there's not a really long living lifespan of somebody that's eating a predominantly meat dominant lifestyle. And one of the questions that smart people who are eating meat tend to ask is, which is what I was going to share with you right now, is there's a guy called Carnivore MD. Have you heard of him?
yeah, Paul Saladino.
Yeah. There's a little clip here that I'll share with you. I hope you can hear it. Ready?
How are you gonna get your choline from eating plants? Where are you gonna get choline from? Where are you gonna get creatine from? Where are you gonna get
plants?
No, there's no creatine in plants. Where are you gonna get carnitine from? Where are you gonna get anserine and taurine? Where are you gonna get vitamin K2? You ever heard of vitamin K2?
I'm telling you, all our food is in plants.
No.
All our herbs in plants.
So everything that he mentioned there is synthesized within the body. Everything. So the reason why meat has this is because the animals have also synthesized that in their body. And all of these in excess are toxic, just like creatine. You have creatinine, which is a waste product of too much creatine in the body, which you would have had tested, and you find it's elevated. So most people who don't really understand the body and its functions will say you need these things because you get these from meat, but it's truly all synthesized in the body. All we need is this wonderful type of sugar glucose that we get from fuel, which is fructose and glucose, and the amino acids. They bind together to create protein synthesis. And this is another thing which we feel like you may be deficient in if you are a vegan, is protein. And you'll find that the hardest things to digest in the plant kingdom are higher in protein, like the nuts, the seeds, the legumes, and things like this, because protein has actually been created from amino acids. So life creates this. So let's say the meat that is on an animal, which is protein, has been synthesized from glucose and amino acids. They have worked together to create protein, and now this is turned into muscle. To eat this flesh, which is protein, it has to be broken down into smaller chains of amino acids and then re-put back together in the body. It's not an efficient way.
It's an acidic process.
It is an acidic process.
So when you have the simple chains of amino acids through the fruit, for instance, your body can assimilate this very quickly, very efficiently, and very easily. So you get what you need from it, although you need a larger amount, which is why the nutrient-dense juices and things like that are very good to add in, as well as your fruit that you're consuming as a whole product. But yeah, the harder things to break down have to be changed and converted. But like Josh was saying, there's only out of the amino acids, our bodies can synthesize more than not. So there's like an essential list of amino acids and like a non-essential list. And the essential list, you can get them all from plants, all of them.
Every life stems from plant life, and what's better to grow your biceps than something that has glucose or an amino acids in it when you're training? So when someone's training, they go for an amino acid drink. They might fill it with a glucose powder, which has been synthesized from maize. Why don't you just have a grape juice or an orange juice and take that into your gym and fuel your workout with this? And you've got a perfectly aligned, natural, balanced drink.
Your body is ready to go.
For fuel. You're light. You're not taking on board any type of, let's say, cooked food. Even though it's fine to have some cooked food, you are killing some digestive enzymes. Your body then has to make them up inside, which is slight acidity, and then it makes you a bit tired. But the best fuel for your body is found in fruit for any type of muscle growth. All of the biggest land animals on Earth, they consume plant life. Every single one. Giraffes, elephants, gorillas.
And what do
rhinos?
Beings like to eat most? They don't often go for a predator.
No, they don't.
You wouldn't see a lot of people eating the flesh of a predator. It would always predominantly be...
Even a lion will kill a hyena, but it won't eat a hyena because hyenas eat meat.
Yeah, that protein. I think that's what has led me down some hard paths in the past. Always focusing on thinking I need extra protein, but it's always the hardest to digest. Like if you want to add in, okay, I want a bunch of hemp seeds, and it's like that's way harder to digest than fruit. Or if you want the beans, I mean, maybe you can adapt at some point, but I just found when I stopped focusing on protein, my digestion was so much better. And just like no protein powders, no high protein foods. Even vegetables are high in protein and they're hard to digest. And it's rough, man.
It is. It's just concepts of the world, though. Hey, so you've got a great physique, and if you wanted to build your physique, all you need to do is eat more. So I would say after watching your recent video, you don't eat enough to really thrive. So right now you said that you're feeling lighter. So you're like, what do you do? One arm pull-ups and things like this still?
Yeah, I'm doing one arm negatives now, and I can do 7 of them, which is more than I've ever been able to do. And I feel like my strength is there, but I'm lighter. I've lost like a good 10 pounds. And I noticed this on my juice fast as well. Like I could not do a one arm pull up until I started that juice fast. And then I felt like it was the electrical energy or something, because it wasn't that I lost a ton of weight. It was like 4 pounds I was down. That shouldn't be enough to be able to do that, but I was doing them. And then eventually I got weaker and weaker, but that was happening maybe due to deficiency, because it was around that like day 54 when I just started feeling super tired.
Yeah.
You'll only grow to the amount of fuel you put in because it's very inefficient for excess amount of muscle. So that's one of the things that I had to do, on my bodybuilding journey when I was younger. I had to force feed. You have to train. You have to learn to be able to eat more, and you continue to dedicate your life to this aspect of nutrition. And essentially, you will never grow bigger than the amount of food you put in. So I would say for you, when you started your day with the melon, that would probably fuel you in training for an hour, and then you need to have something again. And to me again. So this is why a fruit-based diet is so difficult to maintain without the abundance and the costs. So then you could incorporate, some vegetables and things like this into it to balance yourself with the level of weight you need to gain. So if I was to have a smoothie, so first of all, I would rise and I would have water. Then I may have a juice, and then I may have a smoothie. But if I just went to a smoothie, I'd probably have like five bananas in it. A grape juice or orange juice, something like this, and a few strawberries with an avocado. And that would fuel me for about an hour and a half.
But this is not for healing the body.
No, this is for growing.
This is for growth. So it's a completely different system that we would recommend for someone that was building muscle than someone that was healing.
How tall are you, Casey?
About 5'7".
5'7".
And
what do you weigh? Like
132 now.
132. Okay, so yeah, I would just try to eat at least every 2.5 hours and just have something at least a bit more substantial than a melon. And you'll really notice, because you'll be vascular, your skin's quite thin, you're very low body fat, you'll just see the gains quite rapidly. but it's just down to the amount of fuel you got. Really that simple.
So is it because how many calories do you eat when you were trying to like bulk up? Wasn't it like 10,000 calories or something
Yeah, like,
crazy like that?
We used
yeah.
to put an alarm on so that he could
Eat at
wake
night time.
one time. Like, please wake me up so I can eat.
But it really works. So even if you put it into perspective this way, a kilo of bananas, which is about 5 or 6 bananas, is 1,000 calories nearly, about 900 calories.
Hmm.
People that are eating a standard diet, calories isn't what people think it is. Calories isn't what works in the body. It's a experiment with heat. So the body works very differently. You can consume a significantly larger amount of food when you're whole food plant-based or predominantly raw fruit-based than you ever could on a Western diet, which causes you inflammation, the full feelings, and the body just doesn't really want it. So if you like to eat, this is the best diet for you. You can consume a significantly larger amount of food without feeling any bloating, and then fuel the body again and again. Just look at a gorilla. How much do they eat? How much time a day do they spend eating? They go out as a family and collect their food and sit down for hours and just eat.
Yeah, I was just curious if I was to enter in mangoes, 10,000 calories of mangoes. I'm curious how much protein that is because it's very different. I wanted to get your thoughts on this because when I was a meat eater, eating one meal a day, so it was just once, and it was a certain amount of protein, probably like 170, like way too much. But like it seems when you're on the fruit, you have to constantly be eating. Why is that? Whereas like meat eaters can just eat the once and it's not this constant fuel, whereas fruit is like this constant thing. And I was just curious if you're like eating 10,000 calories of mangoes to get this like 70 grams of protein or 136 grams of protein. Okay. So
I would just say that protein is essentially matter, a matrix of matter that's been built that has to be broken down into the amino acids that we need. So when you're consuming meat, it's so dense, it's not very assimilated easy by the body. It causes inflammation, which causes a full feeling, and the breakdown of it's very slow. It's a totally different system that is degenerative rather than regenerative. So the body works at a different function, on a different rate. And, you're not necessarily regenerating or healing your body at the same time. So it's so different to say that. So protein to me, in my experience and how I have seen it and the research and the science that I've seen, it is unnecessary to consume.
mhm.
It will be consumed, and the harder the fuel or the harder the food, it's just more dense in protein.
It's just down to assimilation, really, as in how fast it's going through the system. And fruit passes through super quick, super easy, super clean. Meat is pretty much the complete opposite, which is dense, hard to digest, takes a long time to travel through all of the system that we have, and is not an efficient way to fuel the body.
You can, and you will. And if you go on ketosis, you're just in starvation for a long period of time, and people feel better because they're finding this autophagy take place, but then they're adding in this unnecessary process to the body, which will lead to further destruction. So life expectancy just drops rapidly. You use up the body's proteins and fats. Gluconeogenesis takes place from proteins, fats first, then proteins. So the muscle will eventually break down. I just don't feel like it's a great diet, and it doesn't help people heal from chronic ailments.
And what you may be doing, Casey, is that you are having a really good amount of time fasting and then eating your one meal a day. So you were actually balancing that meal with your healing abilities because you were fasting for that amount of time. So all of the energy that was usually used up in digestion when you were eating differently before, like maybe 4 or 5 times a day, was that energy was now being used to heal the body, and then you were eating that one meal, digesting it, assimilating it, and going like that, progressing like that. So
Yeah, that was the plan. I knew I needed to fast like 23 hours a day just to
Mm.
counterbalance the effects of the meat. But I feel like if you did that with a vegan plan, you'd be much better off.
Mm.
But
Would be harder though because of the you'd be a lot hungrier. You'd feel, you'd need to fuel that aspect of calories that you were eating before on the
But
meat.
that's why cooked food plays a role when you're in cold climate, because the body cools itself when you're on fruit, and fruit is predominantly found in warmer areas and is seasonal in a warmer climate, wherever you are on Earth. So your body temperature adapts to that. And if your body's trying to stay warm on a fuel system that keeps your body cool, you have to burn more calories as well in trying to sustain the heat. So it just plays this huge role in it. So I would say, feel free in introducing yourself to cooked food, steamed food, whatever you want to do with the vegetables, because they break down slower. It's a better source of fuel than meat,
Mhm.
for sure. It breaks down quicker, it's easily assimilated in the body, it's more of a natural thing, and it's fine to do so. But again, when we go to chronic ailments, it's just seen time and time after again. If somebody's even moved to a whole food plant-based diet, they feel better. They might feel better if they've removed toxins and still on a meat-based diet. As someone's really chronically ill and they pull away from the meat, they get better. If they pull away from the cooked food, they feel better. They might not have fully healed themselves. They go to a raw food diet and then they experience inflammation with the greens, and then you start to feel very sensitive to these foods,
Deficiencies
nuts, and
happen.
then you go into the fruits and fasting and fruit and fasting and fruit. And people that have been debilitated in bed for 14 years, 16 years in a wheelchair are singing and dancing once they've experienced the fruit where they never did on the other diets. And this is just a practice that we see time and time again. So for us, it's obvious, for people that choose to sit and they don't have an illness on a whole food diet, even with meat. I mean, my nan is 93 and she's eaten from her garden, but does have meat, and dairy and cheese, and she's been disease free her whole life. But it doesn't mean to say that that was the most efficient thing for her lifestyle, because she still had cooked food and things. She might live till she's 130.
Mhm.
So it's all relative to how our journey takes us, but we see that fruit and fasting is the key to
Yeah.
reversal.
Yeah, and I believe that too. And I'm not focused too much on building muscle. I'm just going to continue to work out, and if I lose some strength, because I feel like if I push my digestive system too hard by wanting to consume like 4,000 calories even of just fruit, I feel like that's not going to be ideal for me right now. So I'm just going to eat enough to satiation and just not focus so much on being this alpha male. Like we get brainwashed, all the men, to where it's like, you should be this huge guy. And it's like, is that the most comfortable thing? Like, I feel amazing now being so much lighter. And since I do calisthenics, it's only body weight exercises. I'm enjoying my exercises much more now that I'm lighter, and it's fun. So like, I don't need to
It's
be.
hard to be heavy. It really is. It's hard to be heavy. It doesn't make you feel nice. It's just more of an ego thing. And that was a great thing for me moving away to Spain, because that's kind of when I detached away from any type of physical training, and I probably lost, I don't know, 100 pounds of muscle. And it was a great thing for the overcoming of the mind, because it doesn't matter what anyone thinks about you. And if you think about what other people are thinking about you, it's hard enough to think for yourself, let alone other people. So you're just living in a cycle of mind pain,
Yeah.
full of illusion.
Acidity.
Garlic, onion, and chili. I mean, how do you feel about those three things? I know a lot of people
Yeah.
have them as a standard staple within food for flavoring, but how do you feel?
I feel like they're too harsh, and they're just so noticeable when you eat. When I eat garlic, like I taste it and it's not good for hours after. And it's like, that's harsh. And I can see that it probably has medicinal value. It's just using it as a flavoring. I probably wouldn't be doing that very often.
It's one of the nervous system stimulants, and it's neurotoxic to the brain. And when you ingest garlic, it actually stops the communication between the hemispheres as well, and keeps you out of the alpha wave uh, brainwave system. So this is your calming state. Through meditation, you kind of find these alpha waves, and they're very relaxing. So you'll find people that predominantly eat garlic-based diet are very or have a tendency to be more aggressive than somebody that doesn't. And if you look at yogis past the time, they were, not ingesting garlic because of this very reason. Also, to the bloodstream. I mean, Al Capone used to rub his bullets in garlic. There's rumors that the First and Second World War would also rub it in because it's poisonous in the blood. Like snake venom, you can eat it, but if it goes into the bloodstream, it's very dangerous. But also, it was used to clean like scalpels, so it works in different ways. And I feel a remedy in ancient times was mixing it with onion, and they used to put it on snake bites to kind of remedy
It like
that.
pulls the toxins out. So it is a medicinal. There's medicinal benefits to lots of plants, but whether we should ingest them.
Yeah, I think 10,000 brain cells are killed every time you consume a small amount of garlic as well. So, I mean, it's not something that I am bothered about.
Highly stimulating, I
Yeah,
find.
we just don't consume it. It exacerbates lymphatic system. You feel it after being away from it. Tonsillitis feels the next day after having it.
Yeah, there are definitely like, I know the carnivores, their main thing about vegan diets is the anti-nutrients and the toxic compounds in some plants, but like fruits are the lowest in that. Vegetables do have some anti-nutrients, but like, yeah, the garlic, like these are obvious things that are just too spicy. But you also say ginger causes inflammation. Did you not?
Yeah, if you sit with ginger, you'll feel inflammation in the intestine. Okay, it's okay to add these things to your food. If you're trying to heal, it has a liver toxicity to it. So if you just go into the studies, you'll find it is toxic to the liver. It's not something which is going to be of great benefit when you're trying to heal chronic diseases, but it's not something you need to really be too worried about. Knowing the kingdom of food, it's still a root and it's under the ground. Things that are really given to us effortlessly and drop themselves are fruit.
And they're perfectly cooked by our beautiful sun.
Yeah, I do love a little bit of ginger in my orange juice. It is fantastic.
You don't have to abstain from things like that, but it's just something if you're looking for ultimate purity. Same with turmeric. There's liver toxicity. People have actually had, I think they've died of toxicity of turmeric and curcumin toxicity, but it's not something we need to be too worried about.
Would you say the ultimate healing protocol, if somebody wanted to just benefit the most and heal the fastest, it's 100% fruit with fasting as well, probably?
Oh, you have to take away everything and do everything yourself, then move to a whole food plant-based diet. And then from the whole food plant-based diet, start eliminating cooked food and move into more predominantly raw. And spend a couple of weeks on raw, eliminate things like the lettuce leaves and spinach and things like this until you get to the fruit base. Stay on a fruit-based diet, and then intermittently do your juice fasting and water fasting. Experience this until you grow the fasting muscle. And if you're still not healed, if you have something like AIDS or something like this, then the protocol I said earlier is going to be beneficial for that.
Okay. Teeth issues on fruit. A lot of people seem to get sensitivity. Is that, like you mentioned, the vitamin D before?
Yeah, deficiencies are mainly.
Yeah,
I find
it's down to
just before we get into it, it's like, I wonder, is it the sugar or the acid of these fruits, of like unripe fruits? I feel it's the acid, because when I have things like sauerkraut, very sour and acidic, and vinegars and too much tomatoes, that's when I get the sensitivity. But I seem to be fine eating dates and dried fruits, and that seems to be like the worst for teeth, but I'm not having the issues. So
I mean, all we can say is what we've experienced ourselves, and I think probably 8 months to a year, wasn't it?
Which was
I didn't clean my teeth for 8 months to a year, and I was swilling orange juice around my teeth every time I drank it, and that was a few times a day, just for this test. And I didn't notice anything. And I would say that the demineralization happens from acidosis for one, So when your body's trying to or buffer this with alkalinity, it depletes your body's minerals. So you'll find you're losing bone density and the density of your teeth. So vitamin D deficiencies will also lead to a negative impact on your teeth because your body then can't absorb this calcium, which is, I mean, even in India, there was a study and they found between 90 and 99% of Indians were deficient in vitamin D themselves because you're indoors. They clothe up when they're outside because of the heat. So it's not something that's rare. It's very common. So it's all dependent on the individual. I mean, also you could have a really imbalanced of bacteria within the mouth, which then is eating away at the teeth.
But the mouth and the gut are very strongly linked. So, if you're experiencing gut problems like the colitis, the IBS type symptoms, is very heavily linked to the mouth bacteria as well. So that's something that we can look at as well on a
MMS, MMS, Miracle Mineral Solution.
I've heard of it, yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's very good. It's such an oxygenator. It kills the pathogen. So
especially in the mouth.
if you brush your teeth with that, you can align your mouth bacteria very quickly, and as long as you're not really tricking it too much, it'll stay balanced.
Do you get bleeding gums with it as well, Casey?
Yeah, sometimes when I floss.
Yeah. So that's another sign of like the oral health, and it really does get passed down into the stomach. So really make sure you chew your food well, get the saliva enzymes on it. And we definitely recommend always having the blood test just to see where you're at with regards to health within, like the inner health, and go.
Yeah, I think it's predominantly that. Some people eat a lot of sugar, and that does decay the teeth. I wouldn't say fruit sugar does. If you look at a gorilla or a monkey, they don't clean their teeth, and they seem to be fine, even though they're not living in the perfect environment where they're picking fruit off the trees themselves. But it's probably down to that
deficiency.
Yeah, you know what eludes me? I just always have yellow teeth. I cannot whiten them for the life of me. How is that an internal thing? I feel like it's internal or something. Like it won't.
When did it first happen?
Always. Like when I was a kid, I had that. Like 10 years old.
I think it's probably harder to remedy because of the impact of the childhood teeth. So they kind of stay with you. We use a clay base with carbon, coconut oil, and bicarbonate to clean our teeth. What do you currently use?
I just made a thing. It's funny. I was using nothing but my own urine for a bit, brushing my teeth with my urine because I heard somebody do it, and I was like, this is not working at all. Why would it? Why would yellow urine turn my teeth white? But all right. We had to see for
Uric
ourselves.
acid.
Yeah. No, so don't do that. I don't recommend that. Yeah, I'm making just coconut oil, baking soda, neem, and clove oil. Tasty.
Okay. Add a bit of charcoal, activated charcoal in that too. That would be good.
Okay. Yeah, it's just something
It's
like I've
pricey.
tried even chemical like Crest white strips just out of curiosity to see if something would get it off, but they just never seem to. So maybe I'm stuck with that.
Maybe like with the oral health as well, like when they've got the bacteria in the mouth, when that's imbalanced, then you'll find that it doesn't decay the teeth at all. So looking at the oral health in general is a very good idea because like Josh was saying with the MMS, when you clean your teeth with it and it oxygenates this area here that we're suffering with, and it really does help.
All the pathogens, they just die off because it's too high in oxygen. So it's probably something that you might look at,
especially if the gums are slightly bleeding as well when you are flossing, because I found that helped so much.
22.4% sodium chloride and 4% HCl is the best. And then you just put 5 drops in a bit of water and you clean your teeth and swill out with that 3 times a day for about 5-6 days, and maybe do that once a month and see what happens.
Okay. I will give that a go.
We had good benefits with that. So
It's good to
And
try everything, We'll talk about urine therapy a bit later on. Did you have anything leading on to that? No, not urine therapy, what you were already speaking of, sorry.
no, I was gonna transition into something else, but if you want to
You,
go for it.
no, you carry on. We were just talking about the garlic, onion, and chili aspect, I think, and then we deviate into that. But all three of them are nervous system stimulants, so they pick you up to a certain level, and then you got to drop. So you'll find yourself having an instability in mood. But also, I feel they are also toxic to the body.
Okay. Yeah,
I
like I don't
feel
want to consume anything that is toxic. And you mentioned Himalayan salt. I thought salt was bad. Isn't salt an inorganic mineral and we can't use it at all?
I think all animals crave, even if you watch nature, they tend to walk towards salt and lick it. And you kind of like the way that it tastes
I
naturally.
want to lick it right
I
now.
feel, yeah, we'll go get some. We'll wait patiently.
No, like I really enjoy
Change your microphone
salty.
for a salt lick.
Yeah. No, it's a
Yeah, I
tasty
think,
thing.
yeah, we have such demineralization within our food system that I feel like your body will take what it wants and be able to excrete what it doesn't from that. So I do say don't skim on it, enjoy it, have it, because it's not the worst thing in the world, it's not MSG, it's none of these things. When you're healing, if you're water fasting, definitely add it to your water if it's over 4 or 5 days, keep your electrolytes balanced. Obviously, we were speaking about distilled water earlier on. Distilled water itself is kind of neutral and it doesn't even conduct electricity. So just adding a small amount of salt in it does allow it to conduct electricity. It's a diamagnetic substance, and we put silver into our water or copper because that contains a positive electric charge, but it's also negatively magnetized, which then allows all the pathogens that are charged electrically negatively to then remedy and be put out of the body. So salt is a good thing, basically. I would say
You mentioned the Irish sea moss or the kombu as well into the water because it's so good to mineralize in that aspect.
salt just dehydrates you. If you put it onto a slug, it'll kill it. In the intestines, it's going to dehydrate them. So just be cautious of it. You don't need excessive amounts, and if you have perfectly grown fruit from your garden, you'd have everything you need,
And
and you wouldn't want salt on your fruit.
you
No.
recommend Himalayan salt over a Celtic sea salt, or are they all basically equal?
I just say the Himalayan salt is more of an ancient bed, free from any type of chemicals, residuals, chemtrails, anything like that. So I would just prefer that for me.
Okay.
Hmm.
I am very curious about your skincare routine because I've heard you say just lemon or just baking soda. I'm here dousing myself in my own urine. It's not working. What can I do? I just want clear skin because it's so, I think, important if you want to inspire people. Like I see you two both glowing, perfect skin. It's like, yes, they're on the right path. And it's like, I'm on that path too. And I'm not radiating that. So it's like so annoying.
It looks quite good today, Casey.
It's
You
not
just gotta
bad. It's just
stop
still these like
changing
tiny
it.
bumps and yeah.
The body's doing what it needs to do. So thank them for doing their job. But I feel like now if you stay stable on this path with no protein powders, none of these things, it's just going to clear up and be fine.
Mhm.
We changed our clothes, a long time ago. We washed with the vinegar and bicarb in the washing machines. We wash ourselves with bicarb, lemon, lovely, real nature scrub. And then every so often we'd just we would dry ourselves and then apply coconut oil to the skin, but not every time because our body likes to breathe and have a relationship with the air and water. So yeah, essentially that really. I don't tend to really wash my face like separately. If I was in the shower, I wash it, but it's not really a focal point because it's just always been quite nice.
Mhm.
Mm.
So, like, if I was to use lemon, should I use lemon? Like, just how would you
Bicarb
do it?
in your hand, squeeze the lemon.
Okay.
and rub it in. You can wash your face. It's nice abrasive. And with the body, you just slightly get your hand wet, apply the bicarb to this cream, rub it over your body, stay away from the water, cut the lemon in half, and rub it with the bicarb, and it foams up nicely. And I feel like that's a great way to wash. Also, it's antifungal.
Do that daily though. So I don't know about you, Casey, but we don't shower daily.
Okay. Yeah, I do just out
Um,
of habit. I like the
yeah,
warmth. It's like, oh yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, we used to.
We lived in a camper van for a few
Yeah,
years, so
stop.
it was a treat.
So we do have like I'd probably say I probably shower once every 3 days.
Okay.
Don't smell.
Yeah.
There's like you really don't smell when you consume food like
Yeah.
this. I'm sure you've even experienced going to the bathroom and on your fruit-based diet, and it smells as wonderful as it did going in. Nearly.
Yeah, sometimes. Sometimes. Yeah.
Not when you experience the mucoid pack.
Oh, that's another thing we should talk about.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
we
Yeah.
probably should, because I did that Zen cleanse again and got more mucoid plaque out, and it's now I doubt it because I feel like most of that was the product, but I feel like it benefited me. So like the pain I had for 30 years is gone after doing that. So I'm like, okay, that removed something. It wasn't as dramatic as I was hoping. Like, oh, this giant piece was in me for 15 years.
It's definitely the product, for one, that you see coming out. There's no doubt that it goes through the colon, and as it gelatifies, it could probably hold on to things that may be stuck in the outer wall. But when you consume food like this for such a long period of time, it's naturally going to clean itself and come out. So some of our family, our ex-family members, they do like a water fast for extended period of time and do enemas as well. And then doing the enemas until your body's absolutely completely clear. So you're water fasting for a period of time and there's nothing in there and you feel so light and so fresh, and everything then is being restored. I would personally say that once a month, just do a salt flush.
Hmm.
Allow your body to, trick itself with the salt as to digest it and help pour things through, and keep doing that until your elimination is clear. And this is going to aid in pulling things out from your body in a more natural way.
but with the water as well, have it. When it comes out of the distiller, it's kind of like warm.
Mhm.
Type just above room temperature, I guess. This is like the optimum heat that you'd have
Yeah.
in the water, that kind of temperature, so that it's not causing any stress on the body. A lot of beings like the water, like cold in the fridge, but it can cause a lot of trauma to the body as well as it's going through. So make sure it's like not a really cold temperature when
Okay.
you're having the water. Just when it's freshly distilled,
Yeah,
it's
it's a
really
nice
good.
temperature. You get used to that.
Okay.
But the colon cleanse. So yeah, I seen a couple colon cleanses. One is your one, being the Zen, and another one called So Easy. Have you heard of the So
Yeah, I've
Easy
heard of that
cleanse?
one.
That 3-day one. It's just excessive. If someone's looking at it, I feel like depending on the level of dehydration in the body, is the darker it comes out. You were quite hydrated, so it was quite browny.
Hmm.
It's quite when you don't really go deep into the research, that's essentially what people are looking for, what you see every time you take it, and they feel great relief. There's a great placebo effect in the body, and they go on and they're said it's best to do it 4 times a year, which is a very expensive habit.
Yeah.
But it does hold on to some of the matter that's in your body. And if you experience, like you did, some relief from that kind of like a heavy feeling, that blockage feeling, then you know that something's moved or happened within. So if you've experienced relief from that, then that's
If you have relief, then have a belief.
Yeah. No, I was
Yeah.
saying, like, people always say, oh, that's just the placebo effect. And I was like, good. Anything you can do
Yeah.
to initiate the placebo effect is the most powerful thing you have. So,
That's the most important thing in modern day medicine, isn't it?
yeah, it
Yeah,
is.
the
No,
most
yeah.
powerful.
Yeah, no, I benefited greatly from it. It's just not what I thought. Like the first one, I was almost carnivore when I did that Zen cleanse, and it came out and it was horrible smelling. I was like, wow. And then this next one I just did, I was fruitarian for almost a month and it barely smelt bad. It wasn't in me for 20 years. Like that was not old material. It was,
Yeah.
but it's still like it, I felt good from it. So I don't know.
Yeah, that's great.
And your affiliate link is in the
It's down below.
description.
5% off
5%
with
off.
code vegetable police. Yeah. Yeah. Some things are just, yeah, like I believed in it so much. It was life changing. Like I'm back on the raw vegan diet because of that cleanse, in my opinion. Like as soon as I did that, it was my belief that I thought I just released a piece that was 20 years old. And I was like, oh, maybe I can do a raw vegan diet now. And then I just could. It seemed like I could do it. And so that's why I'm back here. So even if it doesn't
Amazing.
do what it said it does, it served its purpose
the
in my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oxalates, are those a thing? Is that a problem? I get a lot of people saying, oh, oxalates are everything.
That's why you should cook your vegetables, steam them,
Okay.
and soak your nuts, and then you can roast them even further to just take away a bit more. So yeah, I think the nature of vegetables and things like that, you should definitely steam them for the best. And
Is it possible though? Like carnivores often get a lot of symptoms on the carnivore diet and they say it's oxalate dumping.
it depends. Everyone's so individual on that, depending on where they are, what they were coming from, what type of lifestyle they had before. So it's really hard to say. But
I
mean,
feel like
it's
it's
more.
uric acid accumulating, if anything.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, I think everyone's so individual on that type of journey. You have to kind of know the background to be able to say. But even with the vegetation, the vegetable kingdom, nuts and seeds and meat, I feel like they do need a sense of cooking. I really do. And if
Yeah.
you steam them and you eat them raw and just try this, you'll feel so very different. And you can absolutely actually absorb more minerals when they're steamed than you would if they weren't.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Looked like you wanted to hold up a chart or something.
Oh no, it was just I just wiped it clean.
Okay, I thought you
So
had
showing you that it was
something.
clean.
Okay.
I do feel that the reason that in the media at the moment a lot of vegans are going back to meat or carnivore or switching because of the deficiencies that are there at the moment, because they're not necessarily understanding that aspect of the vegan diet. Like we explained before, they feel like they should be purely just on fruit or whole food. Without that supplementation, they're getting quite sick. So they feel like, okay, I need this to help me.
It's usually like a 3 to 6 year period, and then people start to go down, but it can be sooner.
Mm-hmm.
It can be sooner.
Yeah, I see that a lot. So I've just tried to think of as many problems as people report to me when going raw vegan as possible. And we've tackled like most of them, I think. One is just excessive urination, it seems. They're just peeing all the time. Is that just normal? You get used to it on a high fruit diet because you're taking in all this water and it's this constant cycling effect?
I would say that sometimes when people are having high fruit diets and they're also putting salt into some type of food that they're consuming, they're hydrating and then flushing and dumping out. So it seems like you're having excessive urine. So if you're kind of on a really fruit diet, like just fruit, I don't find this too excessive in urination. Do you, or have you experienced that? And I would say it's more to do with what's happening as well as the fruit. So if
Yeah,
you're
I feel like it still happens. And then there's times where it doesn't, but I haven't pinpointed why that is.
Well, your body obviously fluctuates with the level of water it retains, and if you've got a lot of excess water, you're going to be having a lot of excess urine, and most of the time previously to this type of diet, you're kind of dehydrated a lot of the time anyway. And this is why you don't need to drink water at all on a fruit-based diet, really, because you don't. The water does. I would prefer to get my water from the fruit than any other source, even distilled, because it's perfect.
Mm.
And I wouldn't say there's no real reason unless someone's got an underlying health issue, but it is, it's a common thing. But in my experience, it's when I have fruit all day and then like a saltier meal in the evening, and then I wee 3 liters at night in bed, not in the
Okay.
bed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that too. Speaking of pee, we might as well just briefly go there. Is it bad? Like Dr. Morris says, we filter toxins out of our kidneys. Is that true? Or like a lot of people report benefits from urine therapy.
Yeah. I think a lot of the time there's a few shifts around the same time people turn to urine. So they experience a healthier, even if they're fasting on your urine. One of the first books I read probably was when I was about 18 years old. About 18 years ago, was Your Own Perfect Medicine.
Yeah.
There's lots of great studies in that, and essentially what comes out your urine is not waste products. It's like amino acids and vitamins that aren't needed in the body at that particular time. So, I mean, it's difficult to say because if people have come to us and they try urine therapy, you're not getting the results that you would if you were juice fasting. But some skin ailments and things like this, applying urine, it does cause your skin to, be better. Like the amniotic fluid of a baby is essentially urine. Victorians used to take urine baths, so it does have the softening of the skin. They say, I haven't experienced this, but if you get stung by a snake, a bit by a snake, or the antivenom will be excreted in your urine, which is a
Same with the
possibility.
jellyfish, isn't it?
Yeah. But I mean, it's so hard to really give true science to it because it's not in the reach of a real scientific study. So how do you feel? Do you feel like you felt better? Could it be placebo? And how do you feel on juice fasting other than wee fasting, let's say?
Yeah. So I've done 3 urine fasts now. I did a 36-hour one, then I jumped into a 64-hour one, and I just did an 89-hour one. So nothing but urine and distilled water. And my forehead was like really freaking out with eczema. And on my second urine fast, that just calmed so much. Like I felt like it was quite beneficial. And I feel like it's maybe like I look at it like it's my own animal product that I'm getting nutrients that aren't really in plant, even though they were in my body already. I feel like it's doing something. And I just like, I've read so many testimonials on it and people just seem to believe. I don't want to be a part of it though. Like it's a gross thing. Like I get it. I put like aged urine in my hair. I smell like a goat at night, and then I wash it off in the morning with fresh urine. That doesn't help. That's barely better.
Yeah.
And it's just so
I think if you
stupid.
did a water fast with the eczema, you probably would have received, the benefits the same.
Yeah,
I think it's just
probably.
abstaining from matter. But again, it's your own journey. You have to experience it. But in my experience, it's not the magic,
It's not like
that it was said to be in the book,
okay.
you know.
Yeah, it just gets people to fast kind of and avoid the
Yeah.
things that were causing them problems. It's not
Yeah,
necessarily
fasting is so purifying, so purifying. If you do have eczema or you do have anything like that, just fast for a few days and it'll get better.
Mhm.
We had a long time ago someone we were helping with MS, and they were bad with it. We started introducing a whole food diet to them. About 5 or 6 days later, they didn't have any symptoms of it. And they were having their energy and they couldn't maintain it. But it's just this simple, just change the way that you consume into a more natural lifestyle. And if you've gone to a point of fruit, you need to go to a point of fasting. And and vice versa, really. And these hidden parasites that lay within the lymphatic system, they just need to be treated, otherwise things keep resurfacing. But apart from that, I think the cure is found in fruit and fasting for nearly everything.
Yeah, I believe it. So do you have a direction you want to go? Anything left?
I think we covered everything. I mean, the gallbladder flush was another thing that I put down because you experienced. Did you do the oil-based flush?
Yeah, so that was also a Zen cleanse thing, and it's different because they have the apple enzyme, so you don't have to like consume apples for a week and drink the magnesium, like it's all in the enzymes. But then yeah, it's basically half a cup of oil with lemon at night, and I felt like that was too harsh. Like that really ruined me. I woke up at 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. super nauseous. I almost threw up and didn't sleep at all that night, and I was exhausted. And I feel like the liver flushing community it's almost like a cult where you have to keep doing them and they stay doing them over. And it's like, oh, you haven't done 90 liver flushes yet. You're not even started yet. Like they just keep going over and over, and some get relief from it. So but like people get relief from anything almost. Like there's a lot of protocols that give you relief. It doesn't mean it's doing what you think it's doing.
I know. I feel like it's the cause of the things that you're excreting out, and the body's process is dealing with fat and excess cholesterol. It causes calcification, and you're essentially delivering this product from the oil. Our body doesn't want oil. It's
Mix well.
water and oil don't mix. Anything oil-based is dealt with straight away by your lymphatic system as an elimination. So to me, it just isn't right for the body to take. The best thing you can do is have the least calcification foods and live in a higher state of balance, neutrality. We say we need to move towards alkaline diets, but I would prefer the true meaning to be like we need to eat foods that don't cause acidity and are alkalizing within the body, but the body likes to be neutral. So we don't want to be one way or the other. We need to kind of be neutral. So, and you'll be fine. Liver, gallbladder, everything will just naturally eliminate as it needs to, slow and steady, as you transition on a cleaner food diet.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, no, definitely not.
Okay.
Definitely not a good cleanse. More of a retox, I would say.
Yeah, probably. That's what it felt like. I didn't feel much benefit from it. Here's an interesting one. When I watched that debate you had with the carnivore guy. It wasn't a debate, it was a conversation, and you're so non-judgmental towards others. Like it's so amazing. You just have no judgment toward, like if someone's eating meat, that's what they're eating, and that's where they are in their journey, and whatever. If they're eating cooked vegan foods, it's like okay. Like, and I find a lot of vegans judge the meat eaters, and then the meat eaters are judging the vegans, and it's this big judgment fest where like how do you
We spoke about the acidity that causes the being before, because those that judge shall be judged first. We have you back.
there we go.
Yeah. So when you judge another being for their journey or their truth, you end up putting that issue on yourself, because you're creating the drama within your being. Oh, they should be doing this, or it should be like this. It has to be like that. You're putting all of those barriers within your being, creating that unstable environment again. So therefore, not affecting them so much, but affecting your own being. So that judgment will just come back on you tenfold.
Yeah, you have more of a chance of giving people an energy to look into by being that way. And essentially all that's happening is the ego has found more power in its belief that it has a higher form of knowledge than somebody else. And in that higher form of knowledge, it gets self-gratification, and it also has a desire which causes suffering to change others. And trying to change others because the ego, or you know better, is essentially just going to lead to your suffering. And also the other will feel a form of control, and it will separate that energy. So you will find that it doesn't actually serve a purpose and be in such a way. It actually does the opposite and makes the other person want to do carnivore, be a carnivore even more, or eat bad food even more. And I don't suffer because of anyone else's choices. That is a ridiculous choice to make when I have that power. So everyone has the freedom to do what they wish, and I think that is the most important thing on this journey. Is
their true will.
if you that's
you
it.
have to have you've got love for all beings and all life and all of this beauty that surrounds us, and then you have will, your true will. Others have their own will, and if their will is to be on that path, then that's beautiful for them at that moment. That's perfect. And what we do is just give advice based on our own experiences and what we find as we go through this journey. And if others gravitate towards it and vibe with it, then they can come and share their experiences with us. But that equally has a same, like with our families, they might not be aligned to the same journey as ours, but we still have that love and that respect for their own personal will, and we can still be in the same room as them even if they're eating something that we might not.
It's even nicer to be around people that are unconscious in their actions than it is about people who believe they're conscious. Spiritual arrogance as such, because they have so many opinions and they believe that they're right in their own way, and it's not essentially a nice energy field to be around. And when Michelle was saying about families, my mother, father, brother, and sister all had chronic illnesses. My father was diabetic for 37 years, really bad. His feet were rotting away and things like this. My sister had chronic fatigue, and she was in bed and in a wheelchair for 14 years. My brother had skin cancer on his nose, and my mother had cervical cancer. And at the same time, they all decided to embark on a journey together, and they're all better.
Because Josh was the only one that was well enough to advise. So, and they all came on board and embraced it. And now not one of them has got any of those diseases anymore. So we see from our own truths that this is the healing path that needs to happen within, but we never force and we never push the idea or the opinion on others. And if they gravitate towards what we are experiencing and what we journey through, then that's great. We'll be there to help guide and support.
As in the ancient art of magic, do that will, or do that which you will. And if you don't, you suffer in thought. If you have an idea or a will, you must apply yourself to experience that. Because this is leading you through intuition to somewhere higher and greater.
A great teaching.
Yeah, that's great. Because, a lot of people suffer with chronic illnesses, and you have to put yourself in their shoes, because someone who's never been sick might not know what it's like to really have your life energy sucked right out of you and have almost no will to live. And if that type of person can find relief in a diet that's different than yours, like, you have to be okay with that. And I respect anybody who's like doing what they think is right to heal the body, because suffering sucks. Like, it's not fun.
Just taking action, I think that's one of the most important things, instead of being idle and just listening to the dialogue inside the head. And there's a difference between suffering and experiencing pain. Suffering, I would say, is only found in thought, and having a desire to not be experiencing it, or wishing I wasn't experiencing it, and these type of things that come on with the ego. Because truly you can actually suffer if you don't engage in thought, because things are just that they are, and they are experienced momentarily. So if I could give any type of advice, is, do what's right for you, and try to listen to that inner dialogue that's going on, and that war within inside your own mind. And the perception that you have is relative to that which you've experienced, and isn't necessarily true. We can change the way we see the world at any given moment. And also our DNA, in each moment, even our thought, the DNA has changed. So we have the ability to change so much within ourselves. So the journey is a long road for some, it's shorter for others, but it each leads to the same path, which is liberation and freedom.
What we find is a good kind of practice, if you do need to take those steps towards that, is practicing the virtues, and patience with your journey. They say patience is a virtue. It really is, because if you don't invest a little bit of action and energy into something that you know is true, then this will never happen for you. So your intention behind that action is there initially, and if you don't follow that path of your truth, then it will still lead to suffering, because you're not actioning that which you know is true. So being virtuous in your actions, diligence, patience with any journey, you need to give it a little bit of your time, patience, and energy to achieve that, the consistency of it.
Stop living in the future or the past, and just try to be here and
very
now.
present and very accepting of, okay, this is the journey that I'm going to embark on, and I'm going to give it a real, how long did it take me to get sick? Years of eating this stuff that is causing me problems and pain, and then how long am I going to invest in it to actually know that this is going to work for me? And if it's 2 weeks or 3 weeks and then you give up because it's hard, because you're experiencing some pain and problems, then maybe this isn't the journey for you. But if you're willing to give it a bit of your energy and patience, then you should thrive.
Just where the transition comes in, because if you do it slow and steadily, you just feel better and better and better, and you recognize, what's not for you. So just try not to suffer along the journeys. And as Mish said, patience. You just look at patience and you see what comes from being patient. You have an idea about the situation that you're in should be different. So you're in a traffic jam and you're really getting stressed and anger's arising because the idea that you have is this shouldn't be happening. And all this is within inside your head. So you just accept it and realize that, I'm actually having suffering within inside of me when nothing's going on, and I'm the cause of this. So the slight change in your perception is a great liberation.
Acceptance.
And surrender thought, and you're free from them. Just pure experience. Everything is perfect. As are you, brother.
Thank you. Thank you both.
Where's your journey next then? You're on a fruit-based diet?
Yeah, on a fruit-based diet and just doing more fasting. I was going to get into dry fasting, but now I'm not so sure that's going to happen. I don't know. I found this guy who does like 20-day dry fasts, and I was like, wow. And he's having very interesting spiritual experiences. But I do want to kind of redeem myself for my 21-day water fast and not break it with raw eggs this time, and kind of get more into fasting and just continue to heal the body, and hopefully just heal the body eventually, and then teach other. I feel like I'm stuck in that perpetual having something to heal mode always. So I'd like to overcome that. It's been a fun journey figuring out this stuff and making wacky videos about it, but I want to be the guy now. It's like, okay, I figured out this is what works for me, and this will probably help you if you try it, and start teaching more.
Yeah,
I think you're doing a great thing. And
really
if someone
good.
finds your videos now, you've been through all of these different experiments, they can have a shortcut, and hopefully this is the peak of the mountain, and you maintain your health on this and then fall into a lifestyle that you choose to just remain balanced in.
Patience and consistency throughout any journey, whether it be mind, the body, like the fitness journey even. You can't the learning goes with the journey, doesn't it? And that's how you grow and learn through any journey. So just be consistent with your truth.
Yeah. The wisdom comes from your experience, and that's what's so powerful. So you are and will remain and continue to grow in wisdom as you take a walk on your own journey, which is profound, because it's not just chat, it's not just opinion, it's real facts. And it's been very great communicating with you and having the ability to see your journey, because I know that you'll find it here in the fruit.
But it's lovely to watch your videos full of, even though the facts are there, they're so fun, and keep doing you, because it's great, and it's teaching a lot of beings along the way that you know, these are the ways that you've tried, and it's lovely to see that humor as well.
And it's great, the controversy that comes out of it, you know, in the comments and all these opinions.
Yeah. No, it's interesting. I try to make it fun for people because being chronically sick can be so hard. And if you can just laugh your way through it and see someone else is struggling too, it's like, okay, but I'm tired of being the guy struggling here to comfort you. We're done with that.
So how are you feeling now? Are you feeling okay? Do you feel?
Yeah, I
like,
feel
well?
great. It's just like my energy's good. Digestion's okay. Like I choose to eat certain things like these nori and dried fig sushi, like that's giving me gas. So sometimes if I just ate fruit, my digestion's pretty darn good. And skin is almost perfect. It's just like slight. That's why I'm just trying to see if I'm missing something with the skincare routine or just I'm not digesting something, but
I don't think it's
mostly
skincare. It's mouth care, what you're putting in.
Your body's perfect. It's just that over time, when we don't align with what we should be eating or doing or being, then unfortunately we suffer. But this is the teaching that you've experienced, and now you're on the journey of recovery, and it looks like you're actually thriving from it again. So
just one key thing is just do everything yourself. If it comes in a packet, just leave it for an extended period of time, and you'll find that you start to align yourself. And any switch in your diet, so any switch, just very slow and steady, introduce things, and then you'll be all right. If you just eat something in heavily, you're going to experience a digestive impact and some inflammation. And it's not necessarily, you might think, oh, that food's really bad for me and I can't do it, but it's just the fact that you introduced it too quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, listening to yourself. That's something I've developed, and I feel like I'm finally starting to do it more. I've always been looking for like the guru who has all the answers to give me the perfect protocol. It's like, okay, but like you have to take pieces from everywhere and just listen to yourself, and we're getting there.
These mistakes make you, that's all, But for anyone listening who's looking for the perfect diet, take your journey, but try this one first.
Yeah, that'll do it.
make yourself your own guru.
Yeah.
You're your own guru.
Meet the real guru. The self is special.
Well, thank you both so much. I learned a lot.
Thanks,
I'm going to get a blood test and I'm going to find that lichen, vitamin D, and I do take B12 occasionally, so we'll see. We'll see if I'm deficient in these things, and could be that.
Before you have the blood test, just if you've been taking oral, just have like a week off and then go in. Then it should be a bit of a better reading for you. Yeah, thanks to everyone who's listening to this. Thank you for your time and energy, and keep doing what you're doing, because you're an incredible being who we have utmost respect and love for. And it's just a pleasure to reach out and spend some time with you.
Thank you so much.
I'm gonna end the recording here. So thank you everyone for your time, energy, and links will be in the description of ours, and affiliate links will be in the description of Casey's.